Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see you all. We have quite a few people, about 55 people, including some that are here online, and quite a few people in the public. Before we begin our regular meeting tonight, I want to take a few minutes to recognize and thank some very important people. We have two incredible board members that are stepping away of public service, but will continue to stay engaged as citizens. And we are grateful for their commitment to our district. And we offer, and I'll do it at the end, so just hold for a minute. We offer you this glass apple in gratitude for your service to all our children and a symbol of education and the care for the lasting contributions to our school district. And these flowers for the seeds that you have planted, the beautiful growth and opportunities that you have brought with your leadership to our school district. So I'm gonna do the board members first. So Amelia and Michaelan, if you don't mind coming over. And now, and last but certainly not least, Melissa, our longtime administrative assistant. Melissa, you're receiving an apple tonight too, because you really do the work alongside us. You understand the care, time, and complexity behind being a board member. You have been the engine that keeps things moving and the vital link between the board and the superintendent. And we are excited for your new role in the district and deeply grateful for your years of dedication to our district. So if you don't mind coming over. And obviously that is all on behalf of all of the board. Okay. I also want to acknowledge that February is School Board Appreciation Month, and I want to sincerely thank each of our board members for your time, your leadership, and the quiet courage that this work requires, and I'm sure it's going to require it today, so let's try to stay in our lanes. Showing up, listening, making hard decisions, and keeping students at the center is not easy, and your service truly matters. As many of you know, the recent vote did not pass. We recognize that this brings uncertainty, and I want our community to know that our administrators have been working extremely hard to ensure our schools are properly staffed. They met I was writing this yesterday, they didn't meet today. They met yesterday, is my understanding, and will update us today, and the memo went out today to all of the board, and it's on our website. We appreciate your dedication. Please, leadership team, a lot of them are sitting here today, and Stephen, it takes a lot of courage to do what you do, and especially in this challenging time. So I also want to say thank you to you, so thank you. Despite the outcome of the vote, this is a question that keeps coming up right now. Despite the outcome of the one, we look ahead, but we don't look only at the loss of the vote, right? That is not what is important. It is, we continue to see possibility. We see communities recognizing how interconnected we are. We honor the discomfort and the sense of loss that this might have bring, and or stress, really, not loss. Well, also we hold hope grounded in the care for our students and the staff, and the belief in our communities, and the shared commitment to building a stronger, equitable, and sustainable future. Hope is never lost. This work, and I know that this is a little long, but today you're going to have to put up with me. This is my last. This work is happening during a real uncertain time in Vermont, and changes at the state level are shaping funding and governance in the future. But the budget work before us has been, as you know, for a whole year in the making. It reflects, and I'm not going to speak for Stephen, but it really reflects that deep care that our administrators and that us as a board have to have schools that are connected and that they're grounded in what we believe for students, that they're safe, that they have strong instruction, and they have access to support services, meaningful opportunities, and equitable as best as we can with the resources that we have. We're going to have strong schools in all of our communities. Before I move forward tonight, I want to close on a personal note. It's been an incredible honor to serve this district for 16 years, including 5 years as, or I can't remember now, as chair. Well, I will continue to be on the board. I will be stepping away or not seeking re-election as chair, and I had shared that with you guys last summer. I am deeply grateful to everybody, every board member I've served with you, and I'm really grateful to our administrators. You know, some of you in the audience also were the ones that convinced me to become a board member. And most importantly, I'm grateful for all the students. I became a citizen because I wanted to serve. It took a little nudging from Alicia, Alice Agnew, Mr. Cook, Mr. Sherwing. I had a lot to learn, I thought, and I was not sure that I should become a board member. But I believe deeply in public education as the foundation of our democracy, and I will encourage others that are in the public to run. And thank you for your dedication, your partnership, and your continued commitment to our student. And last, as we begin this public comment tonight, I just want to acknowledge that February is also African American History Month, a time to reflect on history, resilience, and the importance of community. So I want to remind us of some words of Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. So hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. So with that message, that for me feels especially important right now, it calls on all us to be kind to one another as we speak tonight, and to have the strength to lead with compassion, and to remember both that the heart and the mind matter, and we need to make decisions together. And I respectfully ask that we keep that spirit of kindness with us during our discussion tonight. Thank you. Now we have a couple of adjustments to our agenda. In the board operations part, so the first one would be at 7:15. We are going to be going at our proposed executive session for superintendent evaluation, because we have a guest with us that would be working with whatever we are in the meeting. We'll move into that proposed executive session. And then on number 5 in board operations, we have both debrief and next steps, and we're gonna break that into 3 pieces. So the first part would be the memo that Stephen shared with us, so we will be going through the memo. Then we had a request from one of our community members from Call to read some comments out loud, so we will have a discussion about reading the comments. And I think some of the memo, we believe with Stephen, that some of the memo will answer some of the questions that were in that email. And then the last part would be the next steps, right? So both debrief and next steps would be the end of that. So if that is okay with the board, I will look for a motion to accept.
I'll move to accept the amendments to the agenda. Sorry.
Thank you, Ursula and Amelia. All those in favor? Oh, Julia, you have a hand up.
I did. You didn't see it before.
Yeah, sorry, apologies.
So I'm wondering if we could, I move that we amend the agenda to include discussion of the pre-K placement decision and its implication for families and school planning.
Pre-K is in the memo.
We will discuss.
We will discuss that through the memo, Julia. So it's part of that discussion. It's in the memo that you received.
That will be included.
Yes.
I think that's important.
Yeah,
Can we
absolutely.
add more time to that section?
Yeah, that's where we'll spend most of our time on that, because the memo is what clarifies staffing and where programs will be happening. So that's where we would have discussion on that. You okay with that? Okay,
Sorry,
so,
could you clarify the three things? It was the memo, the next steps, and I think I missed one.
yeah, so we're gonna first do the memo, then we're gonna discuss the email from Cole.
Okay.
That request, and then we're gonna do the debrief and the next steps, right?
Thank you.
So that.
That's three.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. So now I'm going to open it to public comments. We are going to continue to strictly enforce our time. Sorry, because we have a lot of work tonight. Spencer is going to help me with time, and we're going to have public comment for the next 15 minutes. I already see some hands up online, and if people want to line up by the mic, I'm going to take turns.
We may need, Spencer, I don't know that my mic's working. I don't know. There it is. We're going to have to monitor the time separately. The system's not working for that.
Oh,
so.
okay. I'll monitor the time on the, I have a timekeeper. Okay, Ursula would be the timekeeper. Please introduce yourself, and then you'll get a minute and a half.
Go now?
When's the?
Okay.
Would you make sure that mic's on?
Check 1, 2.
Yes,
check,
the
check, check,
mic-
check, check.
The mic is on.
Great.
Okay.
Hello. My name is, more volume.
Yeah, there's static. I don't know.
It doesn't sound great. Check 1, 2. Check, check, check. Good enough? All right. Don't start my time yet. My name is Matt David. I'm the band director here up at U32. I want to start by thanking the board and the community for the hard work you've done here and the work that you continue to do. I was last here in December to speak about how crucial our musical ensembles are to our elementary students and communities and advocate against eliminating them for just a 0.5 FTE cut. Yesterday, I was pleased to hear that administrators have seemingly changed their minds about eliminating these ensembles, and I attribute that to the power of our community speaking out and the admin's ability to listen and respond to feedback. We also learned yesterday there may be a plan to eliminate 5th and 6th grade general music classes in all 5 schools for a total of 0.4 FTE cut. General music is a staple of elementary instruction. It is a class in every student's schedule, as opposed to students being offered the choice whether to participate in ensembles. There is a reason this wasn't proposed or brought up before, and I think it's because it doesn't really make sense. There's a lot of equity issues with eliminating general music. If a student's family is unable to afford an instrument, they may not get music instruction for 2 years. General music is where students learn important fundamentals, have opportunities to play ukulele, guitar, compose, produce music, podcasting, hand drumming, and a lot more. General music builds literacy, creativity, and confidence in every child, while band, strings, and chorus provide performance pathways. Students need both broad foundational learning and ensemble experiences to ensure equitable and sequential growth. I'm going to turn it over now to one of our elementary music teachers to explain a little bit more. This is David Kirk.
What's going on?
Another issue about the proposed 0.4 staffing, cut to staffing. While the money saved will be minimal in the grand scheme, it is probably be impossible to find somebody willing to take this proposed 0.6 job. The idea of being split between 3 schools, including having to travel from one school during lunch and needing to run a kindergarten through 4th grade general music class, as well as 5th and 6th grade ensembles at 3 schools, while only having 0.4 FTE, is not attractive to potential candidates and applicants. We are not sure it is possible to even do this within our contracted hours, certainly not up to the standard we have held ourselves as educators in this district. 3 years ago, we had 3 elementary music teachers. 2 years ago, the cut brought that number down to 2, which we were then told was the maximum allowable cut at the elementary level. Please keep these cuts from 2 years ago in your consideration when planning for this budget. Saving our elementary ensembles, which is over 80% of eligible students participate in, is definitely a win for our students and our community, but a 0.4 FTE cut, which eliminates 5th and 6th grade general music, which 100% of our students participate in, will have detrimental effects. I urge administrators and school board to please look for these cost-saving effects elsewhere and the community continue to rally and keep our elementary music staffing at 2.0 FTE. We would also like to thank you for your time and consideration. We'd love to invite the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much for modeling that. I'm going to move to one online, and then you guys, Noah, I think you're first on.
Thank you. Noah Weinstein from Worcester. While the outcome of the Worcester vote was not what some of us supported, we now have to figure out how to make it work. For this reason, I am wanting to advocate for the preservation of a math instructor position at Doty in order to assist in providing single grade math instruction to Doty students. I understand that there are very challenging budgetary constraints, and I also believe that the board and administration have a legal and ethical obligation to provide an equitable education to all of our district students. Making sure that Doty students receive sufficient math instruction falls within the realm of this obligation. In the words of Doty's principal in a Front Porch Forum post, the model currently proposed for Doty in the contingency budget would mean that our 3 classroom teachers would have to teach 2 grade levels of both math and literacy, something our multi-age class structure is not built to support. Multi-age math would put Doty students at a disadvantage compared to other students in the district. Doty teachers may also be at a disadvantage contractually, since they would be required to prepare lesson plans for 2 different math classes, as opposed to other elementary school teachers in the district who would only need to prepare for a single grade of math. The math instructor position at Doty is an essential academic position that needs to be preserved in order to provide equitable instruction to all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Katie Chabot. I live in Middlesex. I have a 9th grader at Montpelier High School and a 6th grader at Rumney. I'm here to advocate for all the music programming at all elementary schools. We know music programming is an essential component of education. Would you consider eliminating math or literacy instruction in 5th and 6th grade? Music's the one performative discipline where students regularly demonstrate their learning through live public performances. This has countless impacts on each student. Both of my children benefited tremendously from their elementary music programming. My daughter learned to play clarinet at Rumney, played in 7th and 8th grade band under the inspiration of Matt David, and this year as a 9th grader auditioned for and was accepted to the All-State Music Festival. This is a testament to the impact of the program. My son is currently a 6th grader and is benefiting from music instruction. When you propose programmatic cuts such as these, you deepen the inequity that already exists in students and leave music to something that people who can afford to pay for it outside of school are the only ones who it's available to. So I urge you to reconsider this and keep music programming in our elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go online, and then you can. Becca?
Can you hear us now? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Kelly, do you want to go first, and then Lauren?
Hi, I'm Calla, and I'm in 3rd grade at Rumney, and I really enjoy music class, and we're planning to learn a ukulele, I think, and I want to do that, and I'm excited for 5th grade for band and chorus.
I'm Lauren, and I'm in band, and I'm in 5th grade. And every kid in our class either does band or chorus or both.
So hi everyone, this is Lauren and Calla Mandelwood, and I'm Becca Mandel. Thank you as always, everyone, for all of your hard work. I know you are in a tough spot, but I just we want to show our support for the music program in all of the elementary schools. And I want to underscore Katie's point too, that some families, if we cut music, will be able to find music instruction elsewhere, and many families will not. And if we're trying to figure out using an equity lens to address some of the challenges and cuts we have to make, I hope we have that in front of mind. And I will also say one more quick thing, which is that last year, Calla did a solo performance at the beginning of the concert, which she didn't tell any of us about. So we walked up, she walked on stage and just belted out a song that she hadn't told us she was going to do. And watching your 2nd grader have that kind of poise and not tell you about it beforehand is just lovely. And what a cool opportunity. And I hope all kids continue to have that.
Thank you. Becca? Go ahead, Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya from East Montpelier, and I just want to also emphasize what people have said before me with music and math, and I want to thank you all as well for all the work you've put in. And I want to thank you for approving what I felt was a sustainable model for the future. And as we're looking forward and feeling kind of how this year already has felt like survival mode, and next year is even further cuts, which our families will all feel across the district, please help us get into a sustainable model so that this generation of students aren't just keeping the seats warm while we wait for a theoretical increase in enrollment numbers, which the data does not support. Our kids deserve stability now, and thank you.
Thank you, Maya. It's going to go back online. Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Allen. I'm the past president of VMEA, and I come here in support of your music teachers. You have one of the finest group of music educators in the state, in my opinion. Matt David is a close colleague of mine that I lean on a lot on how things should run in a classroom. And one of your young teachers that is affected by the proposed cuts from this is one of the strongest young educators I've ever had the pleasure to meet as we advocated for music education in Washington, D.C. together. I'm hoping that your administration can hear me when I say that cutting these positions to 0.6 time will just leave you with no music teacher. Filling small school positions is incredibly difficult. I filled a one FTE position in Fairfield in the St. Albans district, which I teach it, and we had 2 applicants for a full-time position. Twinfield, a school very close to you, after reaching out for help, it took a change to the job description that I worked with the administration on, and me personally emailing every single music education program in New England to find a candidate to fill that position at that school. So just from an administrative lens, you have one of the strongest teams in the state, and cutting this now in short-sightedness will leave you without music education for your students, because I strongly believe that you will not be able to fill this position. Currently, I'm adjunct at Johnson State. We no longer have a music ed program. Castleton has 1 graduate this year, and UVM has 1 graduate this year for music ed education. And I can already say that my home district in Morrisville is looking for a music teacher as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ted. I'm from Calais. I represent here my preschooler, first-year preschooler named River. I'm here to specifically address the preschool issue, express my outrage and confusion. The announcement to move preschoolers from Calais to East Montpelier following the overwhelming vote to keep that school open. Stephen, we exchanged an email earlier this week where I asked for a straightforward answer to the question: if voters in a town choose to keep their school open, should their youngest students attend that school? You did not give me a straightforward answer. I wanted to give you the opportunity tonight to give a yes or no to that question.
So we don't, during public comments, you're welcome to give your public comments. We don't go on a back and forth. Right now, a lot of the questions that have been asked right now are going to be addressed through the meeting, and the board will have an opportunity to discuss. Thank you
Well,
for
then my
understanding.
public comment is to encourage Stephen to commit to a yes or no to that question tonight.
Thank you. Going to go back online. Stephanie?
Hi, my name is Amelie, and I'm in 5th grade. And I was really excited about this year being able to go into band. And I'm doing both band and chorus. And I feel like this year I've been looking a lot forward to it. And I really, really hope that we can keep it, because it is one of the things that I look forward to every week. And I strongly think that it is one of the best subjects, and I'm really excited if we are able to keep that. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
You want to say anything, Nick?
Yeah, I just worry with the current budget proposal if we will be able to keep our music instructor. He's been very beneficial for our family, and I don't want to see her leave.
Yeah, And this is Stephanie, also East Montpelier. And just would like to echo what both Amelie and Nick have shared. Music education, especially at the younger years, is so critical. It gives students a sense of belonging and self-expression that they're not able to necessarily get elsewhere. And I understand there's some efforts being made to make this work. And it was already mentioned that there's talk of cutting general music in favor of band and chorus. And while I really appreciate the efforts that are being made to preserve band and chorus, I feel like that is just robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we really need both. So thank you.
This Khan's amazing.
Thank you. Bye, Emily. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Laura Lee Kuravu. I'm a current teacher in Calais, a Berlin resident, taxpayer, and a mom of a student at U32. I'm speaking tonight to point out my concern over the current budgeting resource allocation model and its impact on equity across our district schools. While the per pupil funding system is often presented as a baseline for fairness, when you look closer at the actual service to student ratios, it reveals significant inequalities that disadvantage our smaller community schools. I believe that the heart of this issue is that the cost of providing essential services does not scale directly with student population. Currently, our system creates a disproportionate advantage to larger populated schools. As an example, this year, a larger school with twice the enrollment of a smaller building was able to hire 4 times the library staffing and offer dedicated technology instruction to those students. Smaller schools often struggle with fractional positions such as 80% nursing or 80% counseling. We must ensure that a baseline of essential services, including administrative assistance, is guaranteed for every building regardless of its size. Schools with higher enrollment receive more total dollars, but because many operational costs are fixed, these larger schools have a greater ability to flex the remaining funds. This allows them to offer additional opportunities that are simply not accessible to smaller schools. In alignment with our district guiding principles, we must ensure this consistent, equitable, and sustainable programming drives our structure so that all schools have access to the resources and learning opportunities they deserve. The current weighting system is not equitable. It fails to meet the needs of all district students equally.
Thank you. Going to go back online. John?
Hello there. My name is John Moten. I'm the advocacy chair for Vermont Music Educator Association. I had actually had something prepared here for us, but to be frank, I want to first give a huge shout out to Amelie and the family there for being out here speaking. That's incredibly courageous and wonderful. Thank you for standing for what you do in your schools and the fact of making sure that we have everything here. You also, board members, you have an incredible music staff in this district. Bar none, you have an incredible music staff in this district. And as my colleague Nick had mentioned earlier, with these cuts, you are risking an opportunity for retention and for the fact of not essentially being able to fill and get these positions filled. Thank you, in the same instance, for trying to ensure that we can keep ensembles in place. Performing opportunities are some of the most memorable things for me as a music educator, and me as a student in music while I was there. However, we can't not talk about the power of general music. Students who necessarily don't find the passion originally in singing in a chorus, playing in an ensemble, they find that love in general music. I have students, many stories that I still keep in contact from many years ago, who literally they found their way in music, in general music, and to take that away at such a pivotal time. And I get you're trying to make things work. It totally makes sense, but please understand that this is not a this or that. It truly, truly needs to be both. And we strongly urge you to make sure that you do include both. A comprehensive music program for all your students all the way through. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Callie Weller. I'm a teacher at Calais Elementary School. I've been teaching in the district for 17 years. I don't typically stand up and talk to all of you, and so this is a little unnerving. I typically speak to small children all day. I'm here to talk to you about the move of the Calais preschool because I feel deeply that early education is extremely important. The Calais preschool is moving to East Montpelier next year, and I'm a little confused because there are currently 11 students enrolled at Calais for next year's preschool. seems like a perfect size, and it fits the parameters the board has set for preschool for a classroom. There's also a classroom set up that is currently being used, so there's physical space. I just am hoping tonight when you talk about the memo, or when you get to the memo and you talk about preschool, that you can explain more why kids are being moved. If we have the numbers and we have the space, I'm confused why we're asking our 3- and 4-year-olds to get on a bus and travel further down the road to shorten their day in front of teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Sophia.
Hi, my name is Sophia Amy. I'm the parent of 2 kids at Doty, and I'd like to read some excerpted minutes from the December 17th board meeting. Quote, Chris McVeigh offered an amendment: if any of the towns vote not to close a school, this board will honor the vote and not work to circumvent the town's vote. Superintendent Dellinger Pate stated that we intend to honor the votes of the towns. However, the administration reserves the right to move students. For example, if a kindergarten class has 2 students, a grade level can be moved to configure an appropriate kindergarten class size. He suggested pushing a vote to the towns is the best way to know what is the path forward. Keely Sloan suggested that the amendment be less vague. Chris McVeigh suggested amending to quote-unquote board or administration. Superintendent Dellinger Pate suggested not adding administration to the language. A vote on the amendment was held. This motion to the original amendment carried, end quote. Yet here we are now, and at that time, the superintendent suggested that he be exempt from this amendment solely for the purpose of being able to move tiny classes. But this is happening for a class that is estimated to be 11 to 14 young kids, more students than the East Montpelier class that will not be moved. So A, how is this move being justified when it is not related to academic outcomes or small numbers and was not known to Calais families or staff before the registration process began? And more importantly, the ramifications of this move speak volumes to the impact of constant instability on residents of our towns when we're trying to pick ourselves up. People who are in the middle of registration have stopped registering their kids. And
Thank you, Sophia. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Hi, neighbors. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of music education. I have 2 kiddos at East Montpelier Elementary School. One of them so passionate, it was his choice to come tonight, and I appreciate that. So I just want to be clear about the importance of arts education for kids at this age, thinking about the relationship between music and math skills, thinking about brain health and the power that music has to lower cortisol levels in the brain, for students to work together around social and emotional learning. It's just for me, it's a no-brainer that we have more music education in our schools. I also just want to thank our music educators, the Music Educator Association, for bringing their expertise to this conversation. And we also just need to give the tools to our teachers to be successful. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Erica?
Thanks. And I'd like to say thank you to the board and thank you to Floor for your leadership. And thanks to all the community members who are stepping up tonight, all the kids, and the statewide leaders as well, from various associations. I don't want to distract from the nitty gritty of what you're all talking about tonight and what you need to do. I just want to put in a plug under the topic of next steps, as it was on your agenda, to consider that looking beyond this year, looking into the future, which is a big unknown future for all Vermont schools, that we could take the opportunity as a broad district, as a broad community across our district, to create a vision for how we want to rebuild a school system under the parameters, restrictions, and the positive opportunities that we have today. And we know that the wider world may be changing and may be hard to predict, but we do have however many thousands of residents who share really powerful opinions about what they want to see in their schools. We have brilliant people trying to put it together into a strong system. I think we need to take an opportunity to step above the important nitty-gritty at once we're beyond this budget season to look into the future.
Thank you, Erica. Go ahead.
Anna Matheson, Callis. I just want to address the pre-K thing because I feel like that's been a sticking point in this community, but I want to make it really clear that pre-K was stated that it would move to Callis if the numbers weren't there, and there was some miscommunication that came out from our principal, and I personally raised it as well as other people in our community. We went around the horn with Stephen, and there was a statement put out that specifically said that pre-K was not guaranteed to be at Callis, and that would totally depend on enrollment. So I just want to make sure that everybody's super crystal on that, because this conversation should not be happening right now.
Thank you, Anna. We have Sonia, and then last part. It's Sonia? Can you hear me? I believe it's Sonia Andrews online. Oh, there she is.
Sorry for the bobble. My name is Ross Andrews. I'm on Sonia's computer. She's sitting next to me. I want to echo first all of the previous commenters about the importance of music education. I grew up on the other side of the mountain and came up through the Mount Mansfield Union High School, but I was passed the audition and was accepted into the United States Army Band at the age of 17, coming out of the Vermont music system. And I spent 20 years traveling the world as a member of the presidential escort doing this work. It completely changed my life. I was a bad student, and coming just through music, I have been able to start a consulting company and really work globally with all of the relations that I met through music. So I think that music is critical in Vermont. It's just part of the fabric of our community. But secondly, I'm really continuing to be dismayed by all of the talk about 0.2 and 0.3 and 0.5 cuts across the district. We need to, highly recommend that we look at standing up a committee to put together a 5-year strategic plan on managing declining enrollment. The entire district is going to need to absorb these cuts in revenue, not just the schools.
Thank you.
We have 49% of our revenue going to district-wide services right now.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Barry. Go ahead.
Hi. You know, after the vote, which was in Callis, it was 60% of what we turned out for a presidential vote. I committed myself to work with others to begin to try to get volunteers in our community. We identified already just in a couple of days someone who had a previous professional experience in coordinating volunteers. We've identified at least $1,000 to help pay for that just within a day or two. And then I read both the announcements from Stephen, I believe directed by Stephen, to move the pre-K to K to East Montpelier, and any parents who had kids in that group who had 1 through 6 would also have the right to move their kids. Is that not correct? Okay, well, that's what's going on in the community. So I just thank you, Stephen, for the nod. I would like to have you, first of all, I'd say by that move that was made, whether it's talked about before, because I think I heard originally that from Floor that you were going to keep the pre-K in Callis and move the 1st through 6th grade at one point. But regardless, I would like you to consider moving the pre-K to K from East Montpelier to Callis, because there were so many East Montpelier parents who had no problem with us moving the whole student body over there. And this really needs to be justified more than just a fait accompli. This board and the superintendent have lost complete confidence and trust by many people in the community. Thanks.
Kathleen? Kathleen, can you hear me? You can unmute. Thank you. You're muted.
I know, sorry, I was hitting it, it wasn't activating. Yes, Kathleen Bookchin from Worcester. I'm here, thank you for adding in a full-time interventionist at Doty, but the new latest budget memo as of yesterday, it doesn't specify what subjects are at Doty as far as that interventionist is concerned, and I am concerned about the math interventionist position. And I know there's one less class at Doty now because you're moving the K up to Rumney. And I would think that this particular staffer could potentially cover some math, but I don't know how the qualifications work with that. So I just want to voice my concern for the need for a math interventionist as well as a literacy interventionist at Doty. And I guess I'd also like to echo the last person's comment that if Calais has more pre-K than East Montpelier, I don't understand why East Montpelier pre-K students shouldn't go to Calais. However, I'd also like to state that I don't think any pre-K or kindergartner should be on a bus being bused to a different district. I don't believe that's safe. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to finalize public comment with Caitlin.
Hi there, thanks. I just want to reiterate what everyone's saying about music education and its importance, but I do want to echo what Noah and Kathleen touched on, which is that Doty really needs to have adequate staffing for its basic subjects of math and reading. To think of my children being in a building and not having adequate time with teachers on subjects and maybe being bounced to a computer-based program or something else really goes beyond a feeling of sadness. It's something that's really going to affect all of our children's long-term educational prospects. We all know how important the youngest years are. We need to make sure those positions are adequately funded so our classroom teachers can do what they're there to do.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes public comment, and we're going to move into our, the next topic that we had was the board self-evaluation. There was a memo in your packet. We did this last year. Are there any questions? I don't want to take a lot of time on this because we have such a big agenda today. Just a reminder that as we conclude our work for this year, we will have a self-evaluation for the board, and then we discuss at a future meeting. Any questions? It was part of what we agreed on our monitoring calendar in our work plan. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so then I'll send the email out. Next is our superintendent and central office leadership report, and there's a lot to share. So Stephen?
Yeah, so 1 second. Apologies.
Where do you want to start?
Okay,
go.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a little bit of information in the report around budget and staffing. We'll get into much more of that detail when we get to the board discussion section of it. And another big piece of this is that you, in your, I think the big shout out really is to finance. You have the audit in your packet as well. That'll be discussed as part of our conversations. And then the big thank you that was to Melissa for her work is also that you will be receiving emails now from a new executive assistant. That's Ashley Felix. And so some of you may have overlooked that email because this isn't the person you're normally looking to see, but this is the new administrative assistant. She started yesterday. So she has been introduced to quite a bit in just 2 days' time. So please look out for her correspondence with you as a board. So that that you're not missing anything. Please don't delete those. And then I think one thing that is also, we just sent out all of our W-2 forms. Something that I know that I've said numerous times is that we have 300 employees. We send out over 500 W-2 forms, which means that's how many people that are actually employed by our district. That other 200 that I don't normally talk about are people like our coaches, our substitutes, all those people that aren't necessarily permanent employees of the district. And so a big shout out to our payroll clerk for getting all those kinds of things out, because that was quite impressive. Because if you are all aware, our postal service isn't necessarily delivering these days, and so she made sure that those W-2s were hand delivered to our schools to make sure that our staff was getting those, because we don't get regular postal service at central office either these days. So just a big shout out to Patricia and her work on all of that. And then from there, if we could highlight a couple of things from the, I'm surprising my principals on this, just a couple of things to highlight.
U32, Becca, would you mind talking about the well-being and inclusivity?
The students attending HJC specifically?
And then Alicia, you're next.
You got to use the mic.
We've been really working a lot on how to authentically understand like student voice in at U32, and in particular, I think we've seen some really amazing strides in the ways in which young people's voices are uplifted and the ways in which we're starting to think about shared decision making within those spaces. And so I'm actually going to highlight a couple of them. One is Student Council has sort of like taken this pretty amazing turn this year. They are working on currently a career fair, modifying how we open school with our Smart Start days, and also the cell phone procedures on the bell-to-bell ban that's been legislated for next year. And they have really gathered input from both adults and young people and are crafting that procedure really collaboratively. I think that's a model of how we can think about that work in other places. HJC is now moving into a space of potentially having co-chairs or committee members who are equal decision makers at the table. That moved from some of our work with our partners at Transcend to really think about what are our design principles, what's really important to our young people, lift up their voices, and then do alignment between the work of the Humanity and Justice Coalition and those design principles. And also they held a panel and they co-facilitated on our in-service day and are continuing that work. We just met with a couple of folks today to think about how we can really uplift relevance in our classrooms through that work. So those are just a couple of examples of how we're continuing to think about the ways in which young people's voices can be at the table differently. And as shared decision makers, they are the people who are experiencing learning in our schools. They should be the folks with the loudest voice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Thank you so much.
It's not.
It's not working.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. And the next one would be Alicia.
Could you highlight the data work that you guys were just doing? You've got it. Yeah.
Sure. The literacy training?
Yes.
The literacy curriculum instruction. Yeah.
Yes, so all of us, as a district, we, as part of Act 139 around literacy, are required to make sure that our teachers in grades K through 3 have some literacy instruction and training. And so Jen Miller-Arsenal actually developed a training that was rolled out in all of our buildings this winter, January and February, around instruction and best practices in teaching phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. We didn't just have that for our K-3 teachers, we actually included all teachers in our schools. So our PE teachers, our 5th and 6th grade teachers, all of our paraeducators participated in this training. And then around the data piece, we also, because our assessment windows just ended in January, our winter assessments in all of our schools, we've been looking at that data and using that data to help us determine who receives what type of intervention in our layered interventions. And that is also common practice across all of our schools. So I'm speaking, but it's not just in EMES. We've all been doing this.
Thank you. And Jared, could you highlight our 100 days? I don't know if everybody knows about the 100 days of 100th day of school and what Callis was doing.
No, you can keep it. It's not often somebody raises that. Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, so 100 days was February 9th. And what we did at Callis was we did a 100 can or more food drive. And we were able to get 120, something like that, cans. And we were able to support our families with those items. And then the rest are going to, I believe, either Just Basics or the Callis Woodbury Food Shelf. And then we ended the 100th day with 100-second dance party in the gym. So it was just everyone in the gym for 100 seconds dancing. You can imagine what that was like. It's running around to music for 100 seconds. But it was a lot of fun, and the kids really enjoyed it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And at Rumney, can you highlight the supervision and evaluation piece?
So what I put in the report was about how some teachers had requested an informal observation around their professional learning this year. We have focused on universal design for learning, and one of the latest work that we did was around providing student choice and autonomy, and how there's sometimes choice in the content and sometimes choice in the access to that content. And so teachers, some lessons, it is very easy to provide choice. We have math menus in math, and so there's areas where teachers are really comfortable, and then areas where they were wanting to stretch themselves to try to provide some more choice and autonomy. And so I love hearing that my feedback can be helpful, so that was really fun.
Great. And Celia, can you highlight the circus? And then we're going to actually have you highlight something from community schools as well.
Oh,
you get
double
dip.
I like to double. I really like surprises. So at the end of January, we hosted Troy Wonderly for a week-long residency, and we culminated the event. It was actually not a full week because we had a snow day and a delay. Thanks, Stephen. But it was wonderful. The students were able to put on a full circus, and we had a standing room only. We saw some families we haven't seen in a very long time, so we felt really fortunate. In that same vein, last night we hosted our first ever math night at Berlin. We had 25 families, 75 people. Our PTNA served dinner, and then we had families engaging in math activities in addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, and they all took home a packet with materials. So we're continuing to provide opportunities for families to come into our building and experience community with each other, and it was really magical. So
great. That was it. That was it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
That was the community schools.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great.
Okay, any questions from the reports that you got in your packet? Go ahead.
Not actually for anything specific to the report, but I've seen that we've heard a lot about questions about bringing more volunteers into the schools, and I know Gillian put something out from asking about that. I just was wondering, either now or for later, if we could get some reporting back on has there been volunteer uptake? Is that sort of, having heard that as a significant proposal, is that something that is actually then being followed through on by the community?
So I did post, I think it was last week, explaining the levels of volunteering and the process for applying. And I had one person reach out to me who's in process, one person expressing interest in getting an application, and one person actually come in and fill out an application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gillian? Yes, Mike. Oh, sorry. Gillian, what area did you ask someone to come in to fill out an application in? And what areas are volunteers expressing interest in volunteering in?
I put.
You can raise
I
that
can
up.
raise it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jared.
Sorry. I just put out a general call for volunteers because at the point that I did it, it's not really clear what we're going to need or is going to be helpful for us next year. So I put out a general one, and I asked that people think about what is their availability and their willingness for a level of commitment to volunteering. So it was just a really more general call, saying that I'm working with the staff to figure out what our needs are. And that was really in response to chatter on Front Porch Forum and the Worcester community page about expressing a desire to come in and volunteer. So this was more of a, here's how you get yourself on the roster.
Okay, thank you.
Julia?
You're muted,
You're
Julia.
muted. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to follow up on what Gillian just said, that I've been hearing that people are hoping to see a list of posted positions, like help that's needed before they apply. And I've also heard of somebody in town in Worcester who's put together a database for folks to say what skills they have to offer, so that folks at Doty can take advantage of that. So lots going on.
Okay, we're going to move into we already did the principal report.
Yep.
And we don't have our students today. We're going to miss them. Go ahead, Natasha, you have a question?
I wanted to add something to the student report.
Yeah.
U32 had 15 students represent them at Model UN in Boston. Weekend before last, there were 2,500 students from around the country there. And we had a student from U32 receive a distinctive award for their participation, Samara. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those students. They did amazing work, and I'm really proud of them.
Thank you,
Great.
Natasha.
Thank you.
So, and then community schools, you guys had a report. We just had a little bit of a share from Celia on the community schools. And then the last, Patrick, we're going to move into our executive session. Patrick, do you have anything that you would like to share from the Career Center?
Just quickly, a couple of things from our last meeting, that there were over 300 students that visited CVCC for their shadow weeks. And then 240 were invited back for program preview day. And the first round of decisions for the applications will be out March 13th, and then there'll be an opportunity for a second round and then a third round to figure out who the new kids are for CVC this year. So as the Career Center continues to take on new applications, we're also working on creative opportunities to expand the square footage that we have. Those are discussions with Spalding, but also with some local businesses that have an auto shop and space that could be converted into instructional space that's close to the Career Center. So there's a lot of stuff happening with trying to figure out what the facilities configuration would be for the Career Center, but at the same time, we're taking applications and looking for next year.
Thank you, Patrick. And the last part that we have for the reports is the VSBA report. There's a lot of things happening, but I know that we have a really busy agenda tonight, and we already have Sandra here with us, and I want to move us quickly to do that work. In your update, so I'm just going to highlight a couple of things in your update that you received from BSBA on Tuesday. Please read. There is, besides the gratitude for your service, there is a lot of information on the proposals that are currently on the House. Sue and myself testified last week 3 times in front of the Education Committee for a student bill, for the Collin map, and also
Daddy dropped you off.
for, hold on. Proposal that hasn't been put out there, but there's a link to the testimony that I can share with you guys. What I would like to discuss right now, just super briefly, is that we have an action alert right now, and we'd like to have send it as that you received it in the update. But it is important for us to support right now H842, and it's just very minimal. Change to support the act relating to the Commission of Public School Employee Health Benefits. We have discussed it before. I shared with you guys the op-ed that I wrote, and it's about that. So I would like, if possible, to send an email to our representatives from the board, on behalf of the board, not just myself. Patrick?
Yeah, I tried to read that House bill, and I could not figure out what the substantial changes are that would benefit our district. Could you just give us a couple of bullets on why you think we should support it?
Yeah, and Sandra's here with me too. I just came back yesterday, but basically what I'm just gonna try to summarize it, and Sandra, you can correct me. So basically the 3 things that we are asking is, like, every time that they go into negotiations, the plan goes into arbitration and it decides on one side or the other side. I'm just going to say it in plain English, not in the way that is written on the bill. So what we're trying to do is, instead of deciding on one side or the other side, allow the arbitrator to pick the best parts of both sides so that they can come up with a better plan. Add 1 member to the commission, because right now it is 5 to 5, and that what creates is that there's never a way to, untie, right? So the employee and the employer, there's no way to come with a better outcome. And then the last, and I'm forgetting right now, the last part of it, Sandra, I'm looking at you. Oh, yeah, just where the responsibility lies of making the decisions right now. That's it, right? The 3 things, yeah. So there's nothing controversial. The little changes that we did last year really help, and as you can see, this year was the first year that we did not have double digits. I don't want to spend a lot of time discussing this, but it's a very simple bill. It is not asking. We recognize that healthcare is a human right, and we want everybody to have healthcare in the state. So this is not about taking anything away from teachers. It's about just basically the negotiation process so that we can have better outcomes. As far as not the healthcare increase is really, it's really hard for us as a district. I'm looking, I don't have the numbers right in front of us, but it's really hard in Vermont, and it's unsustainable. Thumbs up? Yeah? Thank you. Natasha, go ahead.
I do not want my name on that letter, please.
Okay, so what I will look at is more about, so maybe we could do a motion, and then I was going to send it on behalf of the board. Not list all the names, but I could list the names, so you want me to redact you from. Okay, all right, thank you. Everybody else okay with that? I don't need any formal motion, it's just a letter. Okay, so with that, I would like a motion to move us into the proposed executive session for superintendent evaluation. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a slow processor, but I wanted to come back, revisit, and celebrate the Berlin community's work to do this math night, and also previously, I know that you guys have had after-hours library access, and I guess a little delayed, but I was connecting the dots between the volunteer conversation in the Worcester community and the Berlin events, and I'm curious about how you are staffing these evenings and to what degree this is a transferable model. I don't know if could you speak to that, Celia?
Gillian's offering to reach up to bring the mic down because I'm so short. The best answer to that is it's all volunteer powered. My staff have volunteered their time. Jessie Dahl has just, from the goodness of her heart, offered these nights. We are pursuing a potential Cliff grant that could offer some more funds to actually pay for food on multiple of those evenings. For the math night in particular, we solicited donations. So Shaw's supported the food, 802 Honda supported, 802 Subaru supported, they gave a $300 donation, and then we bought prizes for the kids to raffle off. So replicable in using your community base and then finding your themes, most certainly, but there's no additional funding at this time. We utilize Beck's work as like us and gather people. That's one arm of community schools. I don't want to pigeon community schools as only events, but that has been a great resource to us and thinking about that, but generosity for certain.
Thanks. So theoretically, though, could happen without staff on site, if with level 2 volunteers or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I would encourage there to be a plan and like an oversight from, like, I would definitely want to be there, but just like having a staff member there is really important, but having a plan like a community event steering committee or community school steering committee or however you want to phrase it, that as long as there's an overall plan, I think it goes really well. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
When I was a teacher, I used to do these, and I had it completely funded by outside businesses. They contributed everything, food, drinks, materials, and then teachers were allowed to use that time as one of their evenings that they were responsible for contractually.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. So could I have a motion to move into our proposed executive session? Who's superintendent? Yeah, well, that is the new language that we use, but you don't have to say proposed. Now you move it to.
I move that we move into executive session to discuss the superintendent evaluation to include the board and
Sandra Cameron from
from VSBA.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ursula, second by Zach. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none. Julia and Kelly, the motion carries. Julia and Kelly, I'll call you on the phone. Please leave the meeting. Thank you. Hopefully, I know we have a lot on the agenda. Hopefully it won't be more than half an hour, and I apologize. Thank you. Here we go. We're going to get back into our meeting. We have a lot to cover today. Thank you for your patience. There's no action from our executive committee. We're going to move right into board operations. So the first part is going to be the memo. So I'm giving it to you, Stephen. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So I know that it was later today that we shared the memo because our work with our leadership team was yesterday, and we were finalizing some of our work on what does a 5 elementary school model look like for our staffing. Certainly, we wanted to make sure that we stayed within the budget numbers that were warned for our communities in our budget vote, $43 million. And so what we did was we started with Suzanne, went back through our budget to look and see where were there any other places where we could make some cuts so that we could add some additional funds to the allocation to our schools. And so we were able to slightly increase the per pupil allocation that we make to our schools. And just a reminder that when we did draft 2, we had not finalized our long-term weighted average daily membership at that point in time. If you recall, we were still working from from estimates, and so we were able to make some recalculations on those just to make sure we adjusted everything. To address one thing about small schools, Calais and Doty both receive additional funds for their students because they're a small school. And so when we talk about the needs-based system that we use, one of the categories is small school. And so those schools receive additional funding per pupil. It's not millions of dollars, obviously, but there are calculations that are done so that per pupil, they receive additional funds over the other schools. And so it's actually graduated. So Calais and Doty receive the most additional funds, and then Berlin and Rumney and East Montpelier all receive a slightly graduated small schools fund, and then U32 does not. And so they also receive, all of our schools receive some kind of sparsity funding as well. So when we talk about the additional needs and the additional funding that goes to those, there are some calculations that do provide those funds as part of this. And so just kind of keeping that in mind as we talk about this. The other thing that we really did was as we went through our budget revisions, our team really looked at, how do we make sure that we meet our class size and configuration models. You will see a table there that gives you our class sizes and configurations as part of that memo. This is all posted online as well. It's with the budget materials on the website, it's with the board materials for tonight. It's the memo link on there. And so we reviewed, if you look and see for our class sizes and configurations, this is what we worked from. We have a few classes that do not meet our class size requirements when we do this model. But most importantly, I want to point out that we only have 4 non-kindergarten classes that aren't multi-aged in our district as a result of the configuration that we're in. And so we have at all of our schools, multi-age classes, and at EMES and Rumney, all of their classes except for kindergarten are multi-aged. And so, and as is Doty. And so we took all this into consideration. We started looking at, okay, what can we do? What staffing do we need for our layers in 1 and 2, just to make sure in our MTSS system that we're getting our base needs and those targeted and specific interventions in the additional layers. Once we sat down and did that and just kind of did that general brush of the work, we started going through and we wanted to make sure all of our elementary students will receive art once per week for 40 minutes. That's the same that they receive now. Music, our grades K through 4 students will have general music once per week for 40 minutes. That's what they currently have. And we made the decision to make sure that band and chorus were for our 5th and 6th grade students. I think you heard that we wouldn't be doing general music, but instead we're going to be doing band and chorus for all of our students in the 5th and 6th grade. And we were able to restore our U32 music program to where it is at its current level. And so that was just adding back in a 0.2 FTE. Our interventionist staffing across the district, we feel like it meets the needs of our students. It looks very similar to what it is this year in terms of our interventionists. Our librarian and library access, we wanted to make sure that every student had 40 minutes of library time per week at the elementary level. That's what they currently have. And so we made that happen. Our school's counseling is still prorated at our 5 elementary schools, but we do have several counselors that have additional FTE added into their schedule so that they are supporting either behavior, health education in some of our schools, some social emotional learning instruction. So there's some additional duties that are being added in so that those school counselors have more than just a day or 2 at some of our schools. And so that's a little bit higher. And then our nursing services were prorated with a slight actual increase over what we had proposed in our earlier drafts of that. But the schools with full-time nursing presence are the schools that have students with a need for us to have a full-time nurse there, but prorated at our other schools. And then where we're able to say we could possibly find some more savings is we've cut back a little bit in our custodial staffing. When you look at Doty or Callis as schools, there are only 3 classrooms that will be used on a regular basis at Doty, along with the art classroom, art and music classroom 2 half-days a week, and the library for a half-day a week. And so we were able to cut back our custodial services in those schools to meet the lack of use of some of the rooms in the school. And so we were able to do those things. Now, specifically, I outlined what our staffing will look like. And so when you look at a school like Berlin, we're adjusting from 10 current classrooms to 8 classrooms next year. And then we were able to maintain our intervention librarian and nursing services at the current level. And then Callis will have 4 classes next year. With that, we were able to do 0.8 FTE of administrative assistant, 0.8 school counselor, 0.8 school nurse. The staffing levels of principal, art, music, and interventionists are going to remain the same as they are this year for next year. And we'll talk more about this in detail. Kindergarten and pre-kindergartner will be combined with EMES at EMES. Doty's going to have 3 classes next year. Art and music will be 0.1 FTEs. Those are half-day programs. The librarian will be 1 full day a week. PE will be 2 half-days a week. And then our nursing will be 0.4, which is 2 days per week. School counselor and principal will be full-time, and there will be a full-time interventionist with the kindergarten being combined, kindergarten and pre-K being combined with Rumney at Rumney. And so addressing Doty directly, because I know there's some concerns about the math intervention there. So the 3 classroom teachers and the full-time interventionist are going to work together to develop a schedule where kids are getting their math instruction, their literacy instruction in grade level cohorts. And so along with support with the principal and all of those, we do feel like that's enough to be able to provide that that instruction at the level that we expect for each grade level. So that interventionist, I know one of the questions was, are they math or are they literacy? They're both, so they cover both of those as part of their work. And then East Montpelier will have 12 classes next year, but we'll also be reducing a little bit of their PE health and their library by 0.2 to make all that work. All other positions are going to remain the same as the current year. Rumney's going to have 7.5 classes. That half class is the half-day pre-K program that's there. They're going to have to increase just a little bit, 0.1 FTE in art, 0.1 FTE in PE and health. You can see how that could be combined with the Doty drop as 0.1, so that those really do kind of go together. There will also be a 0.1 FTE reduction in music and a 0.2 reduction in school counseling. Nursing remains the same. And for U32, there were very few changes. We were able to bring up the music to its current level of 2.8 FTEs and art at its current level of 3 FTEs, with all the other cuts remaining that we had in draft 3. And just as a reminder, that was $1.4 million in cuts that U32 absorbed. That included core of teachers in the middle school. That's 4 teachers there, and some other teaching positions as well. Most of those cuts are due to the declining enrollment. One thing that's sometimes difficult to think about is when do cuts happen at a school like U32 when there's a declining enrollment? You kind of reach stages because you don't just cut an English teacher one year and a math teacher the next year necessarily, because you lose. You really have your teachers in cohorts and teams as they're working with students, so that class size has to get to a level where when you cut that core of teachers, you bump your class size back up, but still within your acceptable range. And so U32 had reached that with the middle school. And so that kind of decline, you notice it's a math, a science, a social studies, and English teacher that are all reduced at once within that plan. And so that's kind of how you see cuts happen at a middle and high school where students are kind of cohorted within a core or a team or things like that. Some additional information, our shared staff is going to be necessary across the district in elementary art, PE, and library and music, still district-wide for nursing. We're going to try to share staff, any shared staff between schools like Doty and Rumney or Callis and East Montpelier so that we can cut down on travel times. We're doing everything we can to try to kind of jigsaw puzzle those reductions or those part-time FTEs so we don't have people traveling between too many buildings as well. And so that's part of our work with that. And now one of the big topics is pre-kindergarten. So currently in our district, we offer 2 full-day programs and 1 part-time program. And so the 2 full-day programs as they currently are, we have one at Berlin, we have one at East Montpelier, and we have a half-day program at Callis in our current model. The half-day program in Callis is the program that used to be the half-day over at Rumney that served Rumney and Doty community. We did not have an enrollment large enough to justify having that program there last year, but we do have the enrollment projections right now for that half-day program to move back over so that we can continue to have a pre-K program between our Middlesex and our Worcester communities. Still only need a half-day program. And I say that this is important is we are staffed as a district for 2 full-day programs and a half-day program. We have the community connection staffing for it. We have a part-time pre-kindergarten teacher. We have a part-time support for the class, ESP support for the class. It is very, very difficult to do part-time programs in multiple locations. Our enrollment numbers for next year show us to still be able to support 2 full-day programs and 1 half-day program. By moving the program back over to Middlesex so that those 2 communities can have that, we really need to maintain the full-day program that we have at East Montpelier and the full-day program at Berlin. And I will just, as a kudos to Berlin, Berlin's program has a very high number of kids right now. We could possibly approach being full in that school in our pre-K program this year. Both the combination of the Callis and the East Montpelier program, there's still plenty of room. I know that there are a lot of different numbers that are given by community members. We ran into this problem last year when we were trying to do the Rumney and Doty pre-K, is that if people don't register, we don't know what our numbers are. And so we have a lot of people that will say that they are or are not registering, and it's very difficult to plan a program when people don't actually register. And so that helps us, and it helps us make decisions. But right now, the administrative team talked about this at length, and we believe that we can offer the best programming by having a full-day program at Berlin, a full-day program at Callis, and the half-day program over, I'm sorry, my apologies, the full-day program at East Montpelier and the half-day program over at Rumney. And I also know that one of the things that that we can do in this configuration is we can also offer transportation between Callis and East Montpelier and Doty and Rumney in the mornings and the afternoons. And what we're looking at, if you can kind of picture transportation for this, the Doty bus can run, it can pick up all of its kids, go by Doty, drop off all the students that are there at Doty. Any pre-K and K kids that are on that bus can remain on that bus, and any that are dropped off at the school can jump on that bus. That bus can go directly to Rumney for them to have their program over there. And then in the afternoon, your Doty bus will come by Rumney to pick up those kids a little bit earlier than school is out so that they can be back over to Doty to pick up all those kids and then distribute them. Same thing can happen for Callis and East Montpelier. In the past, we had a problem with that. So if there's people with a long memory about what was happening at Rumney and Doty a couple of years ago when we were trying to do this as well, one of our issues was the students were not able to get their 10 hours of instructional time because we only offered 4 days a week, and if we picked them up or dropped them off early, they would lose that time, which means we can't bill the state for it. When we've gone now to a 5-day program, we have 12 and a half hours of service. So if we lose a few minutes on each day for transportation, we still qualify for our 10 hours of service. We still get the money from the state. We don't have any question about that. And it can just help us out. And I would just reiterate that we had a group of people that came together at the beginning of this school year. It seems like an eternity ago now, but our pre-K task force spent a lot of time talking about what did we want as both a district. We surveyed our community, and we really found out if we could, everybody wants full day pre-K, 5 days a week with before and after school care. And so we can't do that. Our budget won't allow it, but we felt like the next best thing that we could do was add an additional day to our current 4-day system. One of the other questions that has come up is what happens after this year for our pre-K kids that are from Calais to East Montpelier. If there are enough students to do a full kindergarten class, we will have a full kindergarten class back at Calais that next year. This is not an effort to create a pipeline to cut all the classes at Calais and eventually have them at East Montpelier. When we have a decline in enrollment, we're able to move our kids between some of our schools. This has been happening now. I think we're on our 3rd year at Doty and Rumney, or is our 2nd year? We don't even know. So I think we've been doing for 3 years, we've been doing maybe just 2. But we've been doing this because of the small class sizes there as well. But I would say that 2 years ago, we combined them in pre-K, and this year, the kindergarten classes are in each of their respective schools because there's enough students for each of the schools to have their own kindergarten class. So this is not something new to us. This is not something that we have tried to subvert, where kids are being placed. When we had enough kids for a full class, we kept them in a full class. And so we really think that the model that we're proposing and that we're planning for, having full-day programs at each of at Berlin and East Montpelier, half-day over at Rumney, is the best for our staffing, the best for our programming, and we really want to make sure that it's the best for our kids as well. And so that kind of sums up some of our other piece. There was a little bit of transportation information I threw in there. We're going to do a survey the week of March 16th for transportation services for next year so that we can start to get an idea of what transportation needs we might have. But also just a reminder that final bus routes and times don't come out until late August. It takes that much time to put all that together. And then finally, when we talk about estimating our budget is always an estimate of what we think is happening. And I know that people would love for us to have firm numbers, but one of the biggest estimates that we have currently in our budget is our salaries. We are currently in negotiations with our teachers union and our ESP union, which are all of our salaries. So within this budget, we are still estimating how much that amount will be. We won't share what that is because it puts us at a disadvantage for negotiations if we say what we've estimated within that. And so I would just remind everybody that 50% of our entire budget is salaries. And so 50% of our budget right now is still an estimate until those salaries are negotiated and we have a firm number. And so that's what we work with as we develop these budgets and we put them together. And so I think I've hit a lot. I think we addressed the music issues. I know that pre-K, we've explained the system that we have put together as a leadership team. And I think that from what we can see right now, we can provide the single grade math instruction with some creative work at Doty. And so I think that we have addressed a lot of those. I would also say that volunteer opportunities, I would love to get to that. And once we can settle this work, we can start working on that as part of our community schools work as well. All right, so I'm sure there's questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Board members, questions for Stephen? Or leadership team? Go ahead.
Just 2 quick questions. One, just clarification. So 5, 6 students 100% of them would have either band or chorus. So 100% would still have music. Just it would be band or chorus.
And or chorus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question, so I'm hearing that with some creativity, there will be able to be single grade level math at Doty. Does that mean that each of the classroom teachers will only be teaching one grade and the interventionist will be teaching the other grade, or not necessarily?
I don't know that we can guarantee that yet, but we do have a wonderful group of people out there that are going to work on what kind of, they might departmentalize a little bit more than we normally have at our elementary schools, which means that one teacher may teach more math while another teacher teaches more literacy.
Okay, and literacy, is that currently single grade level at the schools?
The phonics instruction is, but the rest of the reading is not.
And that will remain single grade level at all the schools?
As I'm looking at the principals right now, I'm getting nods, so I'm going to say yes on that.
Well,
I'm not getting a nod.
That was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to make sure we get that right.
The mic just moved behind the pillar.
It's right there.
So the literacy instruction question is a little bit more complicated because currently we have the foundations, the phonics instruction in the primary grades, and then word study in the older grades. Those portions are currently single grade, but all literacy instruction is not necessarily single grade. So the components of it are, but there's a whole bunch of it that isn't. Did that help?
No. And then assuming it's important for those to be single grade level, that the parts that are will be able to remain single grade level?
At Doty specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards. We're looking at kind of like completely reimagining how we structure our day.
Thank you. Thanks, Gillian.
Go ahead, Zach.
I know there was some confusion in some of the earlier staffing drafts about whether the Title I positions were being included or not. Is the interventionist represent Doty the current Title I position, or is that a separate?
Yeah, no. So the Doty interventionist is a Title I position, and 1.4 of the interventionists at Berlin are Title I positions. Am I right? 1.6 FTEs of intervention at Berlin are title positions.
Yeah. Are there other Title I positions in the district as well, or is that really what we're using that money for at this point?
Those are the 2.6 main ones that we have right now. Yeah.
Chris.
Oh, yeah, okay. So what is the difference this year in terms of the music program that we had quite a public participation discussion about? Is there a difference between what is being funded this year versus, or proposed for the upcoming year versus what there is in place right now? And if there is a difference, what is the cost of replenishing?
So I would start by saying that some of our cuts, when you see them at elementary schools, are due to the number of classrooms that are in that building. So many times we see a cut to something like music or PE or art, and that's due to the number of classrooms, because the number of classrooms is what determines how many FTEs you need because of the way the positions are structured. And so when you see a school like Berlin that goes from 2 to 8 teachers, that's 2 less classrooms, and that's less time that you need a music instructor. So just starting with that piece, what I would say is that our current 40 minutes of once a week music instruction that we currently have for all our students will remain. Our 40 minutes of art instruction once a week will remain. Same with library. PE is twice, PE health, but mostly PE is twice a week for all of our students for 40 minutes. That's what we offer now. That's what we will offer next year for all of our students. So if there are reductions, it's simply because of the loss of, I missed something? Not in 5, 6.
I was going to, okay.
So can one of you explain the 5, 6 better than I can of how you structured it for the elementaries?
Is that 5, 6 across the district? Okay.
Yes.
And so,
So they're not going to get general music instruction. They are going to just get band and or chorus. Yeah.
Is there a cost associated with that reduction? What would the cost be to?
I don't know the exact amount of that cost, but yes, it is a reduction in FTE of the music.
Do you know how many FTEs it is? 0.4 across the district. Okay. Couple more follow-ups on that. In terms of Doty sounds like it's in a very hard place in terms of math and literacy instruction. Maybe more math than literacy, but what would be needed to get Doty back? And I'm assuming that's going to be a change from what you have this year, Gillian, in terms of math instruction. No, you can.
Yeah, no, yeah. If you could use the mic, that would be great. And yeah.
So it's also more complicated at Doty because we're going from 4 classrooms to 3 classrooms, and the number bulge is kind of in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and the 1, 2 is actually quite small. So it's not a simple answer to the question, I think is the best way to put it, because
So can I, there's a lot of talk about creativity to basically accomplish this goal of providing math instruction. What would you need to be less creative in order to ensure that you have the level of math instruction that would serve these students? And you know, I'm particularly concerned about the grade levels, because that's all foundational work.
Right.
Right? And that it's hard to repair, I think, if not a good foundation. And
so Doty has always been creative. I would put that out
and
there.
And that's not pejorative. It's like...
I honestly can't answer that question at this moment because I haven't looked at thinking about how we kind of redesign things, because in some ways there are some real potential benefits to making the change in that. So for example, if you have 3 classrooms and perhaps you have direct instruction happening in single grades in 2 of those 3 classrooms, then the other students can move to the 3rd classroom, and they would be working with a classroom teacher and the interventionist and principal support. It would be a time that students could get meet with a guidance counselor. There could be small group work done. There could be intervention services done, and you could have students grouped in terms of their intervention services, less based on grade and more based on need. So there are some actually kind of exciting things that we could do out of this change.
So Gillian, just to clarify, I think that, you know, we don't need to have the detailed sort of how the classes are gonna work. But when you guys came up with this plan, having an interventionist plus the 3 teachers, an interventionist that is both math and literacy, like you said, that is, you have enough within that group for the number of students that you have to have a math program that is the best quality math program that stays with our equity standards in our continuous improvement plan.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that the best delivery system for the math program? What you described, is that the best delivery system for that math program to our students?
Can I just offer? I don't know that there isn't a single best delivery system, if that's what we're asking about.
I'm asking if there are better ones than other ones.
Single grade classes would be our best option, which is an option that we are not going to have. within the district.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out, we're all, like, Callis has we all are going to now have multi-age classrooms, and we're all going to have to figure out how to deliver that math, and it's going to look different in all of them. But this is not just a Doty sort of concern here. Every building now has multi-age classrooms, and we're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah. So one of the other conversations that we had as a team yesterday was because our district is a multi-age classroom district now, is that our professional learning needs to be adjusted to that reality. And so that's part of what we're saying is that this is the model that we are having to adopt as a district so that we meet the needs of our kids. And that means that the training of our teachers has to change to meet that new model. And that's one of the things that we spent some time talking about that yesterday and have already charged Jen Miller-Arsenal with how, what are the best ways for this to occur and what trainings do we need to do as we start, as we finish this year and begin next year. And so.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, and to that point, I want to just acknowledge that we had an Ed Quality Committee meeting just prior to this, where Jen laid out a really comprehensively drafted curriculum map for scientific inquiry across our district that can only be honored with fidelity with single grade classrooms. And hopefully we're still able to move forward towards that, covering those 21 units across 7 grades with our multi-grade classrooms. But the second best would be multi-grade classrooms that stay as the same multi-grade configurations. To me, that's not going to be happening either. So I just want to acknowledge that point also. I wanted to also focus on, like, well, I'm unhappy about the pre-K situation at Callis. So just to say that. I want to think about incremental improvement towards the task force and its goal of 25 hours weekly. And I'm wondering what a year from now would be a realistic goal to increase the number of hours to. Have we thought at all about that at the district?
So what Daniel's referring to is the number of hours of pre-K service that we provide per week. We're looking to have, we currently have 10. We're moving that to 12 and a half next year. I do not foresee a situation in the current configuration and environment of funding that is going to allow us to increase that time. The biggest change that needs to occur at this point in time for pre-K to expand in its hours is an increase in the dollars that our legislature allots to pre-K education, because right now they only allot 40% of a full student in that funding. So for us to expand, given our current budget situation and what it looks like in the future, without additional funding from the legislature, there is no expansion for us.
Okay. And then one last question on the pre-K subject is before care available at the schools receiving students from another town that parents can avail themselves of?
Yeah, so there's a lot of head shaking, yes. And that is our goal, to be able to provide before and after school care where possible through enrollment is one thing that does drive that, but we typically have enough students when we have the full day programs to have before and after school care for them. It can be a little trickier at a school that does not have a pre-K program or does not have a lot of students, but we can certainly provide that care, and that's what our goal is, to have it at the pre-K sites for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I think people get confused with that, and we had it in our informational meeting talking points. When we say full day, for example, if the pre-K is going to be at East Montpelier, it's the morning program. The kids that are going to go in the afternoon program are in early care. The kids that are in the program in the morning are going to then go to aftercare in the afternoon. Yeah. So that's what we call the full day. So there's basically 2 programs of pre-K, and you can explain it better, Alicia, than me.
I think it's important to make sure that we're clear too, is that pre-K is no cost to families.
Correct.
The additional care that is either both in the morning or afternoon, depending on which session of pre-K they're in, does cost, but there is a sliding scale and there are supports for families who need additional support. Our state is actually very generous around this and we want to take full advantage of that. So that creates a full day pre-K experience and care. And then there's additional time before and after school, which we talk about as before and after school care, which would be fee-based for our families as well. And so there's a lot of pieces to that add up to a full day and then a before and after school care program. But we want to be really clear that our program, the 12.5 hours, that's free to our families. It's additional care beyond that would have a cost associated with it through our Community Connections program.
And that's how they run the program in Berlin too, and that's how we have it at
That's
Berlin.
true.
It's an existing program, and East Montpelier has had the before and after care too. So it's not a new program. Patrick.
Yeah, Stephen, I appreciate your in your description of the memo, the discussion of why we're seeing kind of the step function that we're seeing at the cuts at U32 because of enrollment. I think that's really illustrative of what's happening. I'm wondering if you have a similar paradigm for talking about central office and administration. Is there a similar kind of step function that would happen with declining enrollment, and where are we in that kind of idea?
Yeah, that's a tough one because the services that are provided by central office itself, that's only 13 people that are actually in central office. There are some other functions that are district-wide, like our IT program, and we also consider custodial, and all those are centralized services as well. I would say that as our district starts to get smaller, the best thing that could happen would be to combine with another district that is also smaller so that you aren't duplicating those functions across two small districts. For us, I think I would point out, we feel like our finance system, our financial group is the right size, and when you look at our audits, we don't have problems because we have good management and oversight within that program, but that's not a lot of people. That's 4 people and a business manager. And when I kind of highlighted on purpose that we handed out over 500 W-2 forms, that's why you have an HR person, a benefits person, and a payroll person, because any organization that has 500 employees needs those functions to be able to exist. I don't know where, if we get down to where we have less than 300 employees total, then yeah, you might not need an HR and a benefits specialist, but I don't actually know the metrics on how far you've got to get down. I mean, I just know where we are right now.
Okay. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the per pupil allocation. I think the public comment we had on that was pretty articulate and got me thinking about the pitfalls of sticking too close to a ratio or too close to a metric and not thinking about the actual need of a particular building. So you talked about this a little bit with the funding from the state that comes to our elementary schools because of their size. But is there also a scaling issue with our using the weighted per pupil allocation in our district?
So I think, let me see if I got the question right. So are you saying because some schools are smaller than others, or, I mean, let's use U32. It's a very large school, which is, a third of all spending is directly related to instruction at U32. I would say that the reason that we try to use the weighted formula is because the allocation that goes to the schools is based upon student needs. And so if there's a high level of need, and we have 2 schools within our district with similar numbers of kids, but different allocations of money because of the needs of the students in those buildings. And on top of that, in our highest need schools, Berlin and Doty, we get additional title funds that go into those schools as well that add to the total amounts of money. So there's additional resources that do go to our schools because of those needs. And that's why we feel like it balances well. But it also, when you look at it this way, and the reason that we centralize some of our services, particularly things like special education, which special education accounts for half of all of our spending in our centralized services. Those costs can fluctuate depending on the student need. And if we were to place those costs within an individual school, that could be way too much to place the burden upon the school. And that's why we want to centralize those kinds of services for our kids, because that allows us to make sure that no school is held to costs that are above what a small group of students could really sustain. And I think that when we look at, there's a few places where we know that it wouldn't be right. So when we see a school that needs additional nursing because of the needs of the students in that school, we don't force the school to pay for that just out of their own money, that we bring some of that back into centralized services. And an example is that if we had a student who moved into the Worcester community who required full-time nursing, we would automatically adjust without it being an expense that goes to their per pupil amount for those kinds of things. So we kind of use this, for the most part, to distribute the funds as equitably as possible, but not equally, right? And I think that that's the hard part, is that we want to see that equal. We give our principals and their staffs the ability to make decisions with their money that is coming to that school about what's right for their population and what they might need. So where one principal may say, hey, I know my kids and our teachers know our kids, and we need to spend a little extra of this money for a school counselor. Another one may say that, you know what, we really need we would like additional nursing so that we can provide some health education or something along those lines. So we give our principals some leeway. It is not carte blanche, right? But we do give our principals leeway to make decisions about what's best for the kids in that building. And so I guess I would say that the system works because every principal would complain that they don't have enough money, right? And I know that that's a bad way to kind of think about it, but that is the reality of budgeting and thresholds and being able to spend and do all of the programming that we want in our schools.
Thank you. I got a couple more. I apologize for jumping around, but there's a lot here. One is about the pre-K. So I'm curious about what the thinking is on when you say we have enough to run a program, whether it's a full day or a half day, and when is it not enough and those kids need to be moved to a different building? So for one individual program, the number that we set last year was for 8 students. That was what we had told our Doty and Rumney community, and if we remember those conversations, we never had an enrollment to 8. I understand that we have more than 8 students that have enrolled from Calais, and we also have more than 8 students who have enrolled from East Montpelier, and we're in the middle of our enrollment period, so we don't have firm numbers yet on where we are. Because that, if we try to split that program, that means that we then have to cut the FTEs of teachers that are currently full-time at East Montpelier, and we would have to have part-time people at Calais as well. That is not for us an easy thing to do. It's also not good for us in terms of maintaining staff. And so we've decided that a full-day program serving both of those communities is what will be financially possible for us. It will also give us the staffing that we need to run a full-day program with before and after school care. And it just at this point in time, it's the most viable programming that we can have. We only have one half-day program for our district right now, where we have people that are willing to work part-time. And I would add one more thing, is that if we have to move some of those students back over to Calais, if we were to do a half day at Calais, half day at East Montpelier, the funds that are at Calais right now would not fully cover a full program of our pre-K kids, which means that they would need to reduce some of their spending in other areas.
we have a cap on our spending right now, right? And so there is no additional funds for that. I think I would argue that the most important thing about this decision really has to do with our staffing and our ability to maintain a high-quality program in a location. I have no doubt that the people that could provide care are good people, but once you start putting people at half-time, you start to lose people. And we've said many times that we want to maintain full-time staffing where at all possible. Suzanne, did you have something to add?
It probably was. You clarified by saying that if the position moves over to Callis's funding really can't support that position. It would have to sacrifice something else that Jared's trying to fund with the allocation that Callis has received. So that becomes problematic for Callis when we try to run that half-day preschool program there. The other thing I just wanted to clarify, when you were talking about the nurse at Berlin and East Montpelier, they did need to use their allocation funding to support that this year.
My
just wanted to
in the
make sure we're
past, we
clear
have
about
not. But
We
thank
tried
you.
not to this year, but then we didn't have as much money this year.
Yeah.
And I
you
also
for that
wanted to
clarity.
remind the board that we're $215,000 away from the threshold. So, and we've got a number on the ballot. So talking about adding to this budget, what are we sacrificing?
Yeah, we can't.
Okay, last point, and I promise I'll stop. Music. I think we heard a lot tonight about the benefits of music, specifically in an alternative education kind of a way. And I know that from my own experience as a learning person. And I'm wondering if we internalize that paradigm as a district and philosophically, but then also do we use that to look for money? Do we use that to look for grants that might be out there for thinking about education in a creative way, with the understanding that our community is uniquely connected to music, and our district is we're on the edge of being able to afford enough music to kind of to support our kids in learning that and being fulfilled in that way.
Right. Yes, we constantly would look for funds in other areas. And I think an appropriate way to kind of frame that as well, from my perspective, is that we're on the edge for being able to provide all of our services, not just music, but music, art, nursing, school counseling. Every one of those is just a few FTEs shorter than what we would really want to have a robust program. And so when we concentrate on one specific area, if we talk about music as one specific area, yes, the FTEs appear small, but when we talk about the FTEs for music and art and school counseling and library and all of those add up to a larger number of FTEs that are difficult for us to fund. And so I too have a deep affinity for music. It helped pay for my daughter's college. And so I understand that, but I also know that my job and the job of my team is to figure out how to make all of this work together. And music is one piece that nobody walked out of our meeting yesterday saying, we've got everything we want. I mean, we all walked out of there saying, here's something that we would wish we could have. And so I hear that, and I wish that we could do something different about that. Can I just say, Julia has had her hand up a couple of different times. Yeah.
Thank you. Stephen, I'm curious if you would be able to provide us with documentation around how the central office or administrative costs were really systematically reviewed and justified to make sure that no cost savings may have been missed there. It seems to me that that's about half of the budget. I might be a little bit off there, but.
So Julia, can I clarify? Are you asking for central office, or are you asking for centralized services? Because centralized services can consist of transportation, food service, custodial, special education, and central office, as well as a few other small functions.
I guess I'm looking for anything that's not staffing, specifically instruction or instruction.
So So you would say we cut back in custodial, we've looked at transportation, but I mean, we can show where, you can see in our budget where all of those categories had some decline in them, except for, I would say, we can show that there was a slight increase in fiscal services because we were no longer able to grant fund our Medicaid clerk. And also within our instructional, I think it's curriculum, line where we could no longer grant fund our one instructional coach that we have in the district, that we consider a very important position. But we can provide, I mean, we can provide everybody with the budget and all those costs. I think Suzanne can help me with this as well.
The only thing I would say, Julia, is I just finished this stuff like 5 minutes before I got here. And so I don't have a really nice draft for the board yet. It's just in a straight line item. It's not ready for you. We just met yesterday, so I need more time.
Yeah.
That's all.
And we're getting ready to have our voters vote on our budget. It's all tricky timing, isn't it?
Yeah, our goal is to have out our summary budget that we, how we give those numbers to you as a summary, and I can't even remember what the other one's called right now, but we're trying to get the regular budget documents out to everybody by the end of this week so that they can see those.
So by the end of the week, you're hoping.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then two things. One is, Suzanne, I'm very aware of how close we are to the penalty phase, and yeah, definitely am.
Yeah.
And when I ask questions about if there's more need, I also, what I would hope the board would consider, and we don't even have to do it tonight, is if the leadership team tells us that it's really hard to make the ends meet and provide students with the instruction that we want them to have. And I don't think we'd ever stand here and say we're not doing it, no matter how narrow or thin the budget would be. I don't think we'd ever say we're not going to educate your students well, right? Just let me finish.
Okay.
Is that I would actually be looking to see if we would reallocate some of the capital budget toward instruction, because it becomes a debate to me between buildings and children and educating students. And at least for me, that's not a strong debate. I know where I'd want to reallocate some money. So, my suggestions would not be to increase anything in terms of the budget, but I'd really like to hear back at some point from the leadership team whether you really think you can do what we want to be done for our students with what you have now. And then the second thing, and then this is the political question that I think is in the air about the pre-K, is if there were 8 students at East Montpelier and 8 at Calais, why was the decision made to move the Calais kids to East Montpelier as opposed to moving the East Montpelier kids to Calais? And I bring it up just because it's there, it's out in the air, and to have a decision, a discussion, and explanation of that, I think would be helpful.
So I think the clearest explanation I can give is that the Calais program that currently exists is because we moved that program from Rumney over to Calais to have that half-day program. We need to move that program back over to Rumney so that Rumney and Doty, those communities, will have a pre-K program. We currently have a full program at East Montpelier and a full program at Berlin. And so what it sounds to me like in that question is that you're asking, why don't we split up the full-day program that we have at East Montpelier so that we have...
I'm completely not asking that question, actually.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
Well, I guess I don't understand that the so did Calais have a pre-K right now?
It has a half-day pre-K program right now.
And you said that came from Rumney. Does that mean the teacher came from Rumney?
The teacher and the aide both came from Rumney.
Okay, so why wouldn't the East Montpelier program move to Calais as a location? It's kind of just taking the program that's currently existing at East Montpelier, moving to Calais, so that those kids are all there. I mean, I don't think it, moving the program to say you're just moving a teacher, really, and who's administering the program. It's a political question. I know it is.
Yeah.
And it's a fraught one with our communities because some feel disengaged and not as well treated. And to explain that decision to not move the East Montpelier program, who was just Callis in that location is.
Okay, so
That's
it's
the
not just
question.
a teacher, it's both a teacher, an aide, and the community connections programs that are surrounding that program. So that's multiple people. I'm not sure exactly, is that 5 or 6 people that are part of all of that?
Stephen? Yeah, so wait, Stephen, I think what might be helpful, and I hate to do this to you guys, but what might be helpful is for Alicia and Jared to explain how this is going to work, because I think that, like your communities trust you. We have the program that has been running at East Montpelier for a while. We are trying to explain in different ways, but you guys sat yesterday with Stephen and went through this, and we as boards need to respect the decisions. You guys took a long time to come up with this decision. So can you, if you don't mind just talking about it so that people can understand how you came.
The microphone's right.
Thank you.
Is it on? Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll only speak for East Montpelier, and then Jared, you can speak for Callis. East Montpelier currently has and has had for many years a full-day pre-K program so we have 2 classrooms. We have a full-day, 5-day-a-week community connections childcare program in our building that begins at 8 o'clock every morning. Sounds like it's going to begin at 7:45 next year, so for families who need to get there before school starts at 9 o'clock, and that runs all the way until 3:30 in the afternoon. We also have, part of this decision was, so that's already in existence. The other thing is that we have and will continue to have full-time nursing, full-time school counselors. All of our preschoolers go to Allied Arts every single week. Those are things that are harder to have in smaller schools because the Allied Arts teachers aren't there as much as they are in a school the size of Berlin or East Montpelier. So when we talked about, and Stephen, it has been said that the programs will combine, and there was never a solid in what location, and I know that feels shocking to a lot of people right now and fully understand that. And that's something Jared and I, we've known that if the towns voted to go with 3 schools, then we needed to talk about where that would be. If the towns voted to stay with 5 schools, we needed to talk about where that would be. And now here we are with 5 schools. And what made the most sense, Jared was able to add some FTEs back into nursing, back into school counseling, and back into admin assistant because the preschool is being moved over. And I am able to continue to have full-time nursing and school counseling. And we felt like it would be in the best interest of those 3- and 4-year-olds to have access to things 5 days a week.
I mean, Alicia laid out that pretty well. I'm not going to dive into that political question of why is one at the other, because that's not, it's about, for us, it was about the fact that we could go from 1 day of nursing to 4 days, and to cutting the counselor back, bringing her back 4 days, having the administrative assistant 4 days. I mean, if I'm being honest, I live in Callis. I don't want preschoolers to leave, but I also have to look at the entire school and what that does for our school, what it does for East Montpelier. The other question, that's something you two right there could talk about. I'm not going to answer into whether it's political and whether one should go to one or one should go to the other.
So that explanation, which is the most full explanation I've heard of why, gives information to the community to better understand the decision. And it's not, we should do that more. And because it would diffuse what I think are otherwise misconceptions as to why something happens. And, I just, if the explanation was out there and I didn't hear it, if you tell me that it was.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay.
I want to
well,
say
Suzanne is saying it in a way that. But I mean, before the decision is being made, before it's made and saying this is why we're doing it, because it's going to give greater access to the kids at Callis, and we're going to have, and Callis is going to get more services because they're not dedicating it to this. So it's just a fuller explanation would go a long way, I think, toward understanding. And it's the type of dialogue I hope we continue to have.
Thank you, Chris. I just want to say something, and I have been wanting to say this, and I appreciate, because I feel like that was a segue for me to be able to. The principals would also love the opportunity to be able to do more of that in these meetings. I think what happens so often is misinformation gets out there, And community members, understandably, there's so much out there, but they get misinformation. They get in front of the microphone and they say things, and we don't know when it's okay to speak up, when it's okay to correct them, and when to stay silent, and we stay silent. And it happened, it happens every time, so I won't even say when. It happens every single meeting. I don't think we know when it's okay for us to speak unless you ask us, and because you did, right, we were able to do that. So thank you for asking, and it gave me an opportunity to tell you we would like to do more of that because there is misinformation we could correct in the moment.
And that would be wonderful. And so I would urge, when we reconstitute in a month, that we incorporate a process where we hear directly from the leadership team and we have a conversation. No holds barred. I mean, we're having an adult conversation is very welcome to me, and I would love to hear from you. But we've put in this striated of tiers of we only hear from Stephen, who I like, but it's not the direct communication with you folks, and I think that would be really helpful in terms of information, not only for this board, but for our community.
Right.
But thank you.
And can I address one other issue that you brought up at the beginning of this about resourcing the classrooms? I think an important place for us to even recognize is, and I would point you to Berlin's 5th and 6th grade, right? So if you look at that right now, we are planning on 2 classes of 25 kids each. That is the absolute limit for those classes. Should we have more kids come into Berlin in the 5th and 6th grade, we would need to add an additional teacher. What we're saying to the board is that we are not putting that into our budget, but should that occur, we would come back to you and say, we need to apply some fund balance to that. And we have done that in the past. We have done that in a kindergarten before. We've looked at it for some other needs at times that we were able to fill. But I would say that if there is something that happens within this configuration in which we need some additional support because something changes, we will be back here in front of the board and we will make sure that we make that request of you because it's in the best interest of kids. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you to all the administrators. I know you guys are doing really, really hard work, and I appreciate you thinking about how to prioritize everything because it feels impossible, and I recognize that. I do want to say, though, in regards to communication around pre-K, there were a lot of possibilities, and I appreciate Alicia saying that if it was 5 schools, it was probably going to be this, and if it was 3 schools, it was going to be that. And so I think it's really, really important when we're communicating to our community to make that piece clear that really nothing is solid until it is solid, right? And I think that's where the miscommunication came up, because even as a board member who follows pre-K religiously, I was kind of taken aback by that final decision, and it was worded as, but you guys already knew this. Well, I knew that maybe CVCC was coming to Calais. I knew that Calais might have a pre-K like a big pre-K program. So there was just a lot of things that were happening, and there were a lot of if this, then this, and I think that's where things kind of got lost. So that leads me to ask the question of, is there still consideration, or are we still looking into working with CVCC on pre-K programming? And if we are, how would that change that for any of the schools?
Yes.
I'm going to let Alicia speak.
Yeah.
Yes, those are conversations Stephen and Jody and I have been having for several months. We were supposed to meet last Friday. They are in the process of hiring a teacher for that program, and we are slated to meet in March. CVCC is hoping to have this district, and I will say East Montpelier, be one of the sites of, and I believe they're looking at 3 sites across Washington Central, Washington County, not Washington Central, Washington County. So that is all still the hope and in the works.
Thank you. My other question is, it's different from pre-K, so I'm moving on from there. But in regards to special education, I know that that is a district-wide kind of assignment, for lack of better terms. And I also know that schools like Calais and Doty often have one special educator for a large amount of children. And I know that through special education, those children can be weighted differently. Do special educators travel between sites should a need arise or a workload or caseload get too high?
I'm going to let Julia take that because she's our director, so she can answer that question. Whoop.
We are currently giving full consideration to just that in light of the decision that was made for 5 schools. We have been monitoring all year caseloads for our special education staff. We do have one school that has a more demanding caseload maybe than another, and we watch those throughout all of our buildings. And we are actively discussing what would be the appropriate FTE based on student need in each of our buildings, and are absolutely open to having staff travel. Currently, our occupational therapists, our speech and language therapists, and school psychologists are shared between buildings. We're very much accustomed to that in special education.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. That's good news.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, and I don't see anybody. Julia, you're good? And Natasha, I know you're on the phone, but I don't see a hand or anything. So I'm going to move us into the second part that I said about that on board operations. We received the board, the entirety of the board received an email from Cole Bliss. And he was requesting that we read out loud all of the email communications that happen, so that we read all of the emails out loud. And I wanted to put it for discussion. We have discussed, I can read a couple of the questions. We have been answering those questions. I don't know that we can take time to read all of the emails, and we also have to talk about what is the precedent. The communications committee met yesterday. Patrick, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, my concern at the communications committee meeting was what's our policy for reading correspondence. I know we have a reception of guests in the beginning of the meeting. On other boards I've been on, there's a discussion of correspondence, but even in those situations, we don't necessarily read word for word email correspondence. And so I was curious what our policy was.
So we have in our procedures and our norms, and we state them clearly on our agenda, is that you can have public comment at the beginning of the meeting. All of the correspondence that we receive is read by the board and answered. But other than that, we don't have a process of reading out loud email unless somebody in the past, if we have had like a board member that was not here or a board member had received an email that was specific to a subject, we have read the email. So what I was thinking is that I would read some of the questions that he had asked on his email that are pertinent to the budget discussion that we had. I don't think that we need to, some of the emails really was just back and forth to request, a public request for information that he hasn't finalized, yet. So I want to stay center on that. Zach, you?
I think it's really important that we make sure that it's the board and its prerogative saying that this is a part of a public comment that was interesting, was worth discussion, that we have decided to take in. We spend a huge amount of time hearing public comment. I believe it was about 45 minutes tonight. There have been nights when it's been over an hour. We have to be able to do our work. And there is a point at which we could do nothing but address public comment if we then set the precedent where we've received some very, very long emails. And I think that's a good format. That's the format that lets people give us a lot of information. But we need to be a little bit careful about, do we actually leave ourselves the ability to do work as well?
So I guess I could reframe that. Go ahead, Daniel.
I was just going to point out that, Floor, you're on record in the email as having assured him you would read it. I think we've got to read all of the emails. And people can judge for themselves whether it was worth our time to do so, but that's where we are.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think it goes the other way, setting a precedent. So if you set a precedence to read every email or you set a precedence not to read the emails, it should be consistent. And I can say that I have been asked to read emails before. I didn't have to read it because Julia got the same email and she read it as well. So I think it's kind of a slippery slope, and I would suggest that we as a board discuss what that should look like in the future. But I do agree with Daniel that there was an agreement in that back and forth email that it would be read. So I do think that we need to honor that.
Right. So, yeah, I was going to try to concentrate on the questions, but I'm happy to read the email. It is a little bit hard to tell where to start. So I'm going to go back because there were several emails on the 17th. So I'm just going to go back to, okay. Yeah, it starts on the 17th. I'm just going back in the 16th, sorry. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So yeah, and I don't quite know exactly where to start, but I'm gonna start on his formal request. He wrote to us on February 16th, which is when he started to ask those questions. So on February 16th, you guys all have this email. Dean Superintendent Dellinger Pate and Chair Diaz-Smith. This correspondence to seek clarification regarding the district response to my prior request for records. Please confirm whether the district position is that the requested records do not exist or are not within the district possession, custody, or control, or whether the district affirmative declining to produce such records. In the district contend that responsive records do not exist or are not within the possession, custody, or control, please so state in writing and identify the custodian of such records. If the district withholding responsive records in the whole or in part, please identify the specific and statutory exemptions relied upon the Vermont Public Records Act and provide the factual and legal basis for application of the exemption. Additionally, it's my understanding that the current budget presentation format aggregates expenditures in a manner that does not permit a building-level accounting of district expenditures. Absent of a fully itemized allocation of costs by individual schools and administrative office, the public is unable to meaningfully address a financial representation concerning consolidation of programmatic decisions. The purpose of this request is to obtain significant detail to allow for informed public review consistent with transparency principles embodied in Public Records Act. I appreciate your prompt written clarification. After that, the second email, and then I'll get to Stephen's response. This correspondence consisted of formal demand for clarification and compliance pursuant to the Vermont Public Records Act regarding my prior request for public records. Please confirm in writing whether the district position is that the requested records do not exist. And it's pretty much what I just read to you guys. I'm going to go to the copy paste it. I don't know if you guys are on it. What he had said in the previous email, I don't want to read it twice. Additionally, please clarify whether the articles of agreement adopted in connection with the district merger require the budget to be presented in its current aggregated format, or whether the structure of the budget presentation is an administrative or board-level policy decision. If the presentation format is mandated by a governing document, please identify the specific provision relied upon. Absent on a valid statutory exemption or governing mandate, the Public Record Act requires disclosure consistent with its express policy favoring transparency and public accountability. Pursuant to statute, a written response is required within the time period prescribed by law. Failure to comply may result in a pursuit of remedies available under 1 VSA, including judicial review. Nothing contained here shall be considered as a waiver of my rights or remedies, respectively called bliss. Stephen responded 2 hours of work that we quoted will be providing the following: a fully itemized school level budget and expenditure breakdown for the current fiscal year, budgeted amounts of the current expenditures, the proposed upcoming fiscal year. We are in the process of revising our budget from a 3 elementary school to a 5 elementary school model. When completed, we will share this budget. Each of the previous 5 fiscal years and full expenditures report, including salaries and benefits, will be provided. There will be a separate file for each school and central office for salary and wages, benefits, contracts, services, supplies, materials, utilities, maintenance, debt, services, administrative allocations, school-level special education expenses, only include paraprofessionals. All other special education services are included in the district centralized budget and expenditures. Transportation at the school level is only for field trips, and all other transportation is in the centralized budget and is not broken out by school. We will provide the capital expense budget to plan in a separate file that does break out expenses by location, but it's not part of the regular school and district budgets. To compile all this information, it will require 2 hours of work time for our business manager. The cost based on the uniform charges, stated by law is 57 cents per minute after 30 minutes for a total of $51.30 remaining for the remaining 90 minutes. We would like to proceed. Signed by Stephen Delaringer, paid, and his next email, which I think is the one that he wants mostly to read, is, Dear Superintendent, I apologize if I misunderstand your prior communication. However, I need direct clarification. Are you stating that the recommendation to close 2 schools and consolidate into 3 was made before complete building by building operational cost comparison was finalized? If your recent statement, you indicate that you do not have a full visibility into certain operational costs. If that is accurate, then the public deserves to understand how the district will confidently present consolidation as the best financial scenario. For months, the community has based assurance that in the process was data-driven and based on thoughtful fiscal analysis. If the key cost components were unknown, not itemized by building, or not fully reconciled at the time the recommendation was made, that fundamentally changes the narrative that has been presented to voters. So I'm asking plainly, was the decision to recommend closing 2 community schools made without complete and transparent school-by-school financial comparison, yes or no? If the answer is yes, then the public was asked to consider permanent school closures without being provided the full final financial picture. If the answer is no, then the complete comparative analysis should exist and clearly be identifiable. Please include both of these questions and the written response of the district public document folder so that the community can review this. Stephen, and this is the last of that. To address your question directly, the board's decision to recommend a 3 elementary school configuration, draft 3, was made after reviewing several comparative financial and programming models, specifically draft 1, 2A, and 2B. It will also note that these models are using estimates of student counts and costs, some of which are finalized now. These drafts provide the school-level impact and operation comparisons necessarily for the board to determine which model met the district's financial and programmatic parameters. At the time of the recommendation, the comparative analysis existed, the form of this board review drafts. The visibility I referred to in my previous note concerns the final line item reconciliation we're performing now to ensure that year 27 budget aligns with the ballot amount. To assist with your request for the building by building comparisons, please refer to the various drafts of the budget on our budget information page. The link was included. We will ensure this clarification and association data are included in the district public document folder as requested. And then the last email from Cole, and that's where I will stop, because it's right after that email that he asks us to read it out loud. Dear Superintendent, thank you for your response. However, your answer does not resolve the central question. You state that draft 1, 2A, and 2B were used for comparative financial and operational modeling, and that certain students' counts and costs were estimated at the time. You also state that the final line item reconciliation is only now being performed to ensure alignment for year 27 ballot amount. That raises an unavoidable concern in the final reconciled line item building by building operational costs were not complete at the time the board recommended draft number 3 and asked the public to consider permanent school closure. Then the recommendation was necessarily based on preliminary or estimated figures rather than final comparative data. To move this forward clearly and constructively, I'm asking for very specific confirmation. At the time of the draft 3 was recommended that the board have a finalized reconciled building by building operating cost comparison. Yes or no? If yes, please identify, this is what I read before. If yes, please identify the specific documents by title and date. If no, please confirm in writing that the recommendation was based on draft projections and estimates rather than fully reconciled line items. Referring to public to multiple draft documents on a web page does not answer whether the finalized comparative financial analysis existed at the time recommendation was made. The distinction between draft modeling and reconciled decision-ready financial data is material needed. The community was told this proposal was data-driven and financial responsible. Whether that conclusion was based on complete, finalized, comparative data or rhetorical question is a governance question. As previously requested, please ensure both questions and written response are included in the district public document. And then is what he asked me to read. For the next school board meeting agenda, I formally request that the email correspondence between myself and Stephen and Flo regarding the district budget on which the full board was copied be read out loud in its entirety to the public comment. This communication concerns matters of public financial transparency and were exchanged with elected and district officials. If the board declines to have this correspondence read in the record, I request written explanation citing the specific policy or procedure rule that prohibits this occurring. And that's the last email. And I think a lot of these questions were answers through the memo and the conversation we had right now. So that was the pleasure of the board. Go ahead, Zach.
Reading that. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Amelia, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to confirm, like that's all public. Right?
Yeah.
It was public before you had to read it, but
yes,
it's
yeah, and the entire board received all of.
Thank you for reading that.
Yeah. Zach.
I take Daniel's point that we made a promise, and even if it was an ill-advised promise, having made it, we should keep it. We just gave a single commenter 8 minutes and 48 seconds of public comment in a meeting where everyone else was granted a minute and a half. Last spring, I received complaints when we were discussing the questions of, whether to rent space at Turtle Island. The proponents of that proposal worked very, very hard to limit themselves to 90 seconds and did not say everything they wanted to because they were limiting themselves to 90 seconds. And then the people who opposed them ran on after speaking later and were not stopped. At our meeting in this room on December 17th, there was an outburst from the room during a time that was not appropriate for public comment. And David Hershey, who was in opposition, asked for time to be allowed to speak, given that the board had accepted public comment out of turn, and he was not granted that time. This is a pattern. There's very clearly one side which is being granted more speaking time by this board than the other. And that needs to stop. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach. I do want to say that I did consult with council when I sent the email, and Stephen and I both consulted with council. His suggestion was that instead of doing it in public comment, which is what I didn't do it in public comment because I would be setting a precedent, that I added an item to the agenda, and in the agenda we discussed the items on the email. I wanted to honor that, like you guys said, that I said on my email that I was going to read them. So that's what we did, but I did consult with council, and that's why we're discussing it in a line item that we all approved at the beginning of the meeting to set precedent that it would need to be approved by the board. So this is just to be clear that we're not giving any ideas to everybody that is going to send an email and say, now you have to read it out loud. We did this purposely on an agenda item approved by entire board. It would need approval from the board to move forward. So I just want to just make it clear, and then not lose more time, this is important. It's community concerns. We have done our due diligence. Are there any questions from the board? The board was privy of all of these emails.
I think it's good that you read it just to kind of demonstrate like there's nothing to hide. Everything's, public record anyway. And it sounds like what you were saying really is like when people are really pushy, it seems like we tend to cave and sort of make exceptions, which are inequitable to the community. And so we be mindful of that moving forward. And I think that the way that you handled it was a responsible way to kind of demonstrate like, yeah, we can share this and there's nothing to hide.
Thank you. Diane.
Well, I think as Elizabeth said, we have to figure this out. We have to figure out our communication. We have to figure out what transparency means and what it looks like. I think a lot of this, some of this back and forth has been because we're we're not connecting our communication. And so we need to figure out what is that procedure, what is that way that builds back that trust on all sides. And right now, that's, to me, what we're struggling with, regardless of whether or not it's a pro or a con side. We're not, we haven't quite found the match of how we can hear each other.
There would be time for debrief later on, so if we could just stay on the topic of this email and the agenda, we will have time to debrief as a board. If there's any feedback for the board chair, happy to take it at the end, but I don't want to waste any more time on, not waste, just getting clear, we have still a lot of material to cover, and I want to make sure that whatever decisions we continue to make are not temperature decisions, but decisions based on data, which is what we'll hope to do. Next is planning for our annual meeting, and our next steps is sort of combine those two. The communications committee met. I can let Patrick, Elizabeth, or Diane, anybody speak? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we, I mean, I think that we need to start yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, in getting our pitch to our community to support this budget. And I am fully aware of the difficulty that we have in doing that, because we had to have this conversation tonight for our board to get behind our budget, because we have a reality today that we didn't know about on February 9th. So I appreciate all of that, but we need to get going. And we had a pretty thorough discussion in the communications committee that time is a wasting, and so we need to get our message. We need to vet that message through whatever committee needs to vet that message, and then we need to get out there and start talking to our neighbors and start talking to people at the bus stop and on social media. Lisa Hanna sent us an email yesterday, this afternoon. I can't quite tell.
It's this afternoon.
Thank you. And fast facts from Elmore, Morrisville United Union School District budget information. I think this is excellent. I think the first page of this of that pamphlet is exactly what we need to be doing. They're not overstepping and telling people how to vote, but they are making a good case for the case. They're making a good case for a yes vote on their budget, and talking about the reality of less students and the reality of difficulties at the state, but the only path forward is a yes vote on the budget. So I would encourage folks when we're drafting our language to use this document that we were all sent earlier today as a guide.
Thank you, Patrick. So, and just to clarify, what the Communications Committee just met yesterday at noon, and the Communication Committee agreed that we have a little document, a table, where people take turn writing our messages. The messages gets reviewed by me, and I share it with the steering committee and, change it as appropriately. Elizabeth is our next person up that is going to write a little draft. I'm working on a message about the budget. We are going to have the board post, like we did the last time, the steering committee post weekly to remind people to vote, to remind people of what the budget was decided, remind people that we do have our report, which we did bring copies, and they're out there. We have a report that the report is accurate, that it is the budget that you are voting on for taxes. What we don't have until now is more of those staffing decisions and the discussions that you're seeing today. Stephen is going to be updating not updating, but like having the memo be in a way that we can just share it easily, the table, the
Staffing table.
The staffing table, because people really like to see the staffing table in order to vote. So is there agreement on that's how we're moving forward? The steering committee will be posting weekly, and then we also talk about the importance of having some of the social media, and Stephen is working on our presentation for our informational, and we'll move into informational meeting. This is just next steps after the vote. Patrick?
Yeah, I know the answer to this, I'm asking anyway, but is there a universe where the budget dies, is not voted for, and then we get a new budget that has more money in it?
No.
No.
No, because we're already at the threshold.
So
I mean,
I don't know how to say that in a pamphlet that doesn't, but that's a piece of the message that needs to go out to our communities as well, because I know that some folks are angry with the reality of the cuts that we have to do, and they might vote no because they don't like the minus FTEs that they're seeing on the staffing table. So I think we need to provide that information if that's what people are expecting, but we also need to get the message out somehow that voting no means less of everything.
Because we have the other side.
I was just going to say, there was a webinar by the VSBA today on communications specifically around budgeting, because most of the state is in this position where we have to communicate our budget to our voters, hopefully so that they will affirmatively vote for our budget. There was really good information in that. I would suggest going online. I can forward it once I get the email if you didn't register for it. A lot of talk of using graphics, but also an emphasis on telling the story. So what we're going to be doing with this money that we have, that we can't get more of, but we certainly don't want less of right now, is this is how we're meeting our students' needs, and try to get that story out.
Thank you, Ursula. That's what I was going to say. And Elizabeth, I can give it. It's on the. If you log in, it's on the webinar page. It will be posted by tomorrow on the webinar. Okay. Any other questions about next steps? And then if we put together the next one is our informational meeting. Like I was saying, Stephen is now he gives us the presentation, the budget presentation. Then the board owns it, and I will do the table that it should do and split it up within the board members to present. Okay. The 5.3 is accept the audit report, and I'm looking for a motion. Go ahead, Ursula.
I move that we accept the audit report. I don't have the exact.
It's on page 13. I can give it to you. So the board accept the audited, oh, you have it there.
I move that the board accept the audited financial statements for the Washington Central Unified Union School District for the year ending June 30th, 2025 from RHR Smith and Company.
Second.
Thank you, Ursula, and thank you, Daniel. And I just want to add that this is a huge celebration for us. And Stephen, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I think that it's extremely important that the board note that one of its primary functions is the financial responsibility. And this is an audit that has zero issues with it. That is thanks to Suzanne and her team. And this is something that we have maintained over several years, no issues with our audit, and we want to make sure that we continue that track record. And so we look forward to bringing you more audits with no problems in the future.
Yeah, and the Finance Committee met with the RH, and it is, like they celebrate it too. It's just really important, and we should be really proud of this, and we are very proud of you, Suzanne, and your team. This is extremely.
Hey, Flor,
Yeah.
Can I just ask for the record, since there was some public comments to the contrary, we have an audit conducted every year, is that correct?
Absolutely,
Yes.
every year, yeah, and every 3 years, we also, if I'm not wrong, but you can correct me, we have changed who our auditor is. This is their year or not? Okay. Okay. I don't remember. Okay, so, but yes. Any other questions or comments on the audit?
I was just going to say, it is a really large body of work. It is very lovely. It's written out. It's in our packet. Feel free to review it. It is a large body of work that Suzanne and her team does, while also preparing our budget documents. So thank you.
And a lot of the information that has been asked about, cash flow or statements of revenues, expenses, all of that is listed in that document. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to move into the Ed Quality Post-Secondary Outcomes Report that it was nicely written, and I'm going to give it to you, Ursula.
All right, the Education Quality Committee is submitting their report on the post-secondary outcomes of our students. It is on page 128. It is, as I promised, 17 pages long, which is slightly different than our normal format because we included the history of flexible pathways and a description of each of the flexible pathways for everybody because it had been brought up by multiple members. I'm not pointing fingers, but multiple members had asked, and so we do this report annually. Typically, it comes to the board in November. We've had some issues that came up. You're getting it now. This is the second of our 4 reports that we typically give you. We have a large multitude of pathways for our students. We have, and this is typically our college students, although one of the things that we talk about in Ed Quality is that this system, like looking at this post-secondary results, where our kids go to school, what they choose to do after high school, is a sign and signal of how healthy our entire K through 12 system is. But our high school students enjoy AP classes, early college, dual enrollment, CTE, which is our career and technical education, so that's CCVC and Randolph Technical Center. We have community-based programs, branching out, pilot, and we have other community volunteers who students can partner with to do project-based learning. We have talked about student enrollment and flexible pathways and the effect on school culture. And it's like sort of a fracturing. We have low enrollment in some of our AP classes, and one of the things Ed Quality typically talks about when we talk about this is how do we bolster and increase the rigor that we provide with the classes that we have here at the school. One of the things that was identified in last year's report is that there were, because of early college, less students, less seniors in the school, which definitely had an effect on the atmosphere and the leadership within the school of the students. This year's senior class saw that, identified it, and felt that they would socially and intentionally work to build community in their year and bring it back. I got notes. I gotta get them to open. Some of the highlights for this report are our 4-year graduation rate is still lower than our pre-pandemic rates. But our 6-year graduation rate is equal or slightly higher than our state rates. We have strong literacy performance across the assessments, and these are the pre-college and college prep assessments, so pre-ACT, PSAT, SAT assessments that our students take. We have seen a decline in number of students taking those. We think, we don't know for sure, but we think that is because less schools are requiring them, and so students are choosing schools that don't require these test results, and so then they don't have to take them. We still have courses with low, AP courses with low enrollment. One of the things we saw this year is our AP statistics class was changed to a dual enrollment statistics class, so it is taught by one of our teachers here, but the students get college credit for it. Our college-bound rates are still slightly lower than pre-pandemic rates, and we have some equity differences in who accesses our AP, dual enrollment, and early college classes. Those were the highlights I was going to give you. I'm opening it to questions now. Patrick?
I found this report fabulous. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It was just for you. No.
I hope it was not just for me.
No.
First question I have is the one of the reasons I brought up some of these questions was a concern for the building culture that I'd heard about from some students actually. And so, can you tell me a little bit more about what the current senior class is doing to preserve some of that culture, even though they're participating in a lot of this kind of stuff?
I would have asked our administrators, because I think Becca is the one who shared it at our meeting. Our meeting was recorded. If it is not on the webpage, I can send you a copy.
Okay.
Becca's the one who spoke to what our seniors were doing, but that they had felt that difference in the year previous and have banded together to make some intentional changes. Oh.
My memory of it was that it was not, it wasn't like any sort of program. It was just a bunch of kids getting together saying, we want to have a senior year. Let's all agree to show up for senior year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Michaela.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I also really appreciate this report. I am concerned about the equity indicators and all the red that I'm seeing. Specifically, also, I like to sort of pick on early college because I've had a concern for a while now about it detracting from the U32 community. I'm happy to hear it's done less of that this year. But I see early college, special ed, female, BIPOC, and free and reduced lunch populations are underrepresented in all of that. And I guess my question, that doesn't need to be answered tonight, but my question to the administration is, A, do we need to offer early college? B, is it worth offering early college if we also have dual enrollment as a way to provide that level to students?
So early college is not something that we get to choose. That is a program that we don't choose whether or not kids go to it. It's offered to them as a part of the programming that the state has put in place. And so we can't say to a kid, you can't go to early college, or we can't discourage it either. That's really frowned upon. So our kids have an option.
So I guess knowing that, then I would encourage us to continue to really invest in things like dual enrollment and strong electives that would attract seniors to stay at U32.
It's definitely been the conversation with the students around that, and we've been working on that since before Becca's time as well.
Daniel.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, just because it's the law doesn't mean it shouldn't be changed also. And I think that there's a lot of anecdotal evidence at this point that it's a broken program, and it's siphoning off a lot of money from the education fund on a statewide basis as well. So I think we need to have some like discussion in statewide conversations about like a quantitative study about the ways in which it's broken, and then start a movement to advocate. So that's probably something we should take the lead on, since nobody else is taking the lead on.
Yeah, so I would just offer that there is currently a bill that's been posed specifically around early college, and one of its sponsors is one of our representatives, Ella Chapin. So I would just say that there's legislative interest in changing some of this as well. So we might want to keep in contact with them about what's happening.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of work into how much it actually costs. There is actually estimates on how much money we use to just fund a very small group of students. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also, just to respond to Michaela's comment a little bit, I think that the underrepresentation for special ed, for BIPOC students, for economically disadvantaged students in early college is a real concern. The gender piece is a little weirder, actually, because early college skews male, but dual enrollment in AP classes skew female. And so it's also that you've got a gender split in how students are choosing to pursue more advanced options. And so we asked about that. We don't really have all the answers to it, but there's a little. That issue's a little weirder, a little more complicated than some of the other ones.
And I would point out, this was our first year looking at the equity piece in the access to these programs, and so we're going to get to continue to look at that equity piece and see trends.
Are there any other questions for, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, so the other question I have was this is addressed a little bit in the AP course. It's that some AP courses have low enrollment, but are there other parts of this that are kind of undersubscribed and in danger of going away? And then the flip side of that is, are there students asking for something in this universe that we're not supporting that we could?
I've definitely heard students speak that they want more rigorous classes. I think that we just need to identify how we're going to do that. And I say we, I mean the administration. Thanks, guys. But I think one of the changes we made this year that seemed very positive and had and I don't know whether it was just what this class wanted to access or what this year's group wanted to access, but the dual enrollment statistics class had 31 students enrolled in it, but those are 31 students that were housed here.
Yeah.
So it could just be finding creative ways to keep providing things like that.
Last question for me is I thought the list of 2025 college acceptances really fun to read. Thanks for including that. And if the person that got into Arizona State wants to chat, I'd be happy. I've heard from a couple of parents that the grading system that we have at U32 is a barrier for them to compare their kids, for their kids to compare their achievements to other people in admissions. Do we have any data around how our particular grading scheme affects kind of our kids' ability to move on to post-secondary?
I'm really glad Jen's getting up to address this.
Okay, it's on. Yeah, so one of the things that those concerns have been around for quite a while since we moved to a proficiency-based graduation requirements system. So one thing that's really important to know is that we have done a lot of due diligence with our school profile. Those colleges are on the back of our U32 school profile. When we've had colleges and we've looked around and gotten feedback about our school profile, we've made sure that there's an understanding among the colleges about what our scores and grades mean at U32 so they can make sense of them. When we've needed to make changes, we have in terms of feedback, but by and large, almost every high school, like all over the place, people use different systems. It's the admissions offices in our colleges and universities who have the responsibility to ensure that they understand what they're getting. That's their job, and it's our job to make sure that we're presenting the information as clearly as possible. So we're routinely consulting with folks, making changes if we need to, and we've been assured that our students are at no disadvantage whatsoever because of the way that we are scoring.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Diane.
And as someone who had two kids who went off to a variety, different schools, that's very true. They look at the rigor of your programming and they also look at it, and so it's really, it's wide. I mean, to be honest, they didn't even look at the AP classes. They really look at the whole picture and that's the current environment out there in terms of acceptance.
I was going to say, there is a link to that school profile at the very end of the report if you want to see what it contains.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, Ursula. Thank you, the Quality Committee, but thank you, Ursula and Jen, for all the work. We're going to move into our Policy Committee, and I'm going to actually give it to Stephen and Amelia because Chris had to go, so I'm wondering if...
So we're bringing three policies for our first reading for you. E20, the community use of school facilities. This is just an update to some of the language in our current policy. There are no substantive changes other than updating the language to where it's superintendent or designee instead of principal or designee for all of this. That was anticipating potential different uses of our buildings, but just updating our policy so that it just much more readable, flowable, and we can execute it a lot better. The E21, the distribution of non-school sponsored literature in school, that is a new policy for us. This is a recommended policy from the Vermont School Boards Association, and it really pertains most specifically to what we allow to be distributed within our school, and it gives us just a little more control over what we do and don't allow for distribution of materials. It really requires a process. One of the things that we added to the VSBA policy and that we want to be very clear about was that the distribution of approved extracurricular programs or affinity groups is there under the definition, because our affinity groups do distribute materials, and we felt like it was necessary to make just very much verbalize that didn't have to be a separate thing. And surprisingly, they didn't include email in their policy, so you can see how we added that in as well. And this aligns with our district's technology acceptable use agreement. So we wanted to make sure that this policy aligned with what we have people sign as part of the acceptable use. So that's E21. I guess I could stop there. Are there any questions about E21? We didn't make a motion yet, but
but this is all first reading, all of them. So,
that's true. And
so
then
we
the
don't
cell
need
phone policy is the AOE's recommended cell phone policy. Our students, this was actually not high on our list to get immediately, but our students said, can you go ahead and get this approved so that we can finish our work on developing the procedures for what this is, so that they could make sure that their procedures matched our policy. And so this is the student cell phone use policy that they are, and Becca made mention of this earlier, that the student council has been working really hard to figure out what are the best procedures for them to meet this policy. And so this is just bringing it to the board to actually adopt. This is a bell-to-bell policy because that is what the state is required through law. And our current procedures and rules around that here at U32 is that the high schoolers could use their cell phones during lunch or free bands. Middle schoolers could not use it at all. This extends that rule now to be a bell-to-bell no-use policy as required by the state. If you don't adopt this, it goes into effect for our school on July 1. So our schools, all of them.
Okay, and these are all first readings, so if you guys have questions, you can always send an email to the policy committee. We are way past time, so I don't want to spend a lot of time unless there's an urgent question. Okay, I'm going to move us into the negotiations committee quick update.
Yep, so the, excuse me, the summary statement for our work that we have done with the ESP is that we've continued work on seniority, looked at language and vocabulary, and the payment schedule, and we talked about lunch and planning breaks. And for the teachers, it is that we reached an agreement on 7.5, which is the reduction in forced language, and began discussion around the system of donated sick time. We are requesting more information around the donated sick leave system to inform next steps.
Thank you. Next is our personnel. So if I could have a motion for the extended leave of absence.
I move to approve the request from Georgia Cody, U32 classroom teacher, for an extended leave of absence for the 2026-2027 academic year. The request meets the requirements outlined in the teacher's agreement.
Thank you, Daniel.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Zach. Any discussion about that? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. And now we're going to move, sorry, there's just a lot of pages. We're going to move right into our consent agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve our minutes of February 4th. Thank you, Diane. Second by Patrick. Any discussion, any amendments? Seeing none, all of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Board orders have been circulating. Who's the lucky person? Oh, there.
I move that the board approve board orders for the dates January 20th to January 21st, 2026, and January 22nd to February 18th, 2026, in the amount of $666,976.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Zach. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Future agenda items, we have U32 schedule and Twinfield meeting. Stephen, you were going to...
Yeah, just quick, the U32 schedule, the students are being presented with the options. They're going to be discussing that at the Student Council. And the Twinfield meeting we have scheduled for 5 p.m. on March 18th here at U32 for their board to both tour the facility and to meet with you as a board and have a discussion about what are next steps, or what are we considering, what do we want to consider in the future. There's no actions that will necessarily be taken from that. It's just a here's what we're thinking kind of conversation to get us started.
And it would be before the meeting, so it's separate from our meeting.
Yeah.
So, any questions? Oh, Daniel.
I was just going to ask that, given that the February 10th vote has passed, whether it's appropriate for us to reintroduce the concept of a merger with Montpelier as well.
We can reach out to them and see.
Okay. So the next is a board reflection. We do have an executive committee meeting. Any other board reflection? Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I just wanted to give the board a heads up that I'd like to step off the Career Center board. And so as we do our reorganization, if folks are interested in that board, I can tell you how amazing it is, and encourage you to participate.
Thanks, Patrick. Anything else? Michaela? Yeah.
I just want to thank you all for the years I've been on the board with you, and thank the community members for all your passionate participation. I will miss this. I'm very torn about my decision not to run again. But I want to say in closing, I sort of said this before, but during my almost 5 years on the board, I went from, my perspectives have changed a lot. We have new challenges now that we didn't have necessarily 5 years ago, or certainly 10 or 20 years ago. And I truly do see us as one big community. I have friends in other towns who are struggling with, these decisions that didn't necessarily get a vote in the most recent vote, for example. I respect everyone so deeply, and I just really hope that we can see that we are one big community and continue to work together to provide our students with what they need as one district and not as individual towns. And on that note, our boys hockey team beat Spalding 4-1 tonight, so that's pretty exciting. That'll be another reminder. We're all one big community. We can all celebrate those wins. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Michaela. Anything else? Go ahead.
Say goodbye, and that I will also miss this. And it's really, in some ways, it's also like making this decision for my family. And, but I appreciate knowing you all, and I appreciate understanding to the depth that I do and that I've gotten to know you, your true concern for the students and your dedication to public education. And despite our differences, I think that the board is generally a cohesive unit. I know that there's a lot of nuances to that, but I do think that there's a good compass to the board, is what I'm trying to say. In all of you, you sort of have these complementary strengths. And given what we're faced with on a much larger level, I urge everyone to keep perspective and remember that what we've been up against with the lack of priority from the federal government has really fueled the fire of division And so I want everyone to remember that is happening on a conscious or unconscious level, and we tend to misdirect our anger or project onto others in ways that promote this sort of aggressiveness, right? And we're kind of like fighting over the same pot. And so to echo what Michaelan was saying, to remember that we are all together in this to figure out ways to share the resources, the funds, but also the ingenuity that's starting to happen with volunteering and people coming up with creative ways to do our best to provide the high standard of education that the district has achieved despite the lack of funds. So I really respect and admire all of you and the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the work that you're doing. Continue to.
Thank you, Micah. We now, before we move into the residency, into the proposed executive session, we have time for public comments. I know that we still have a couple of members from the public here, so we are going to stick with our time, sorry, just because we really, but thank you for being here. Yeah, you can hold it too, and just, yeah, turn around and hold it.
All right. I'm Emily from East Montpelier. I just want to say thank you to Michaelan and Amelia for your voices, and thank you for Flor for being such a measured leader through this really hard time. We've heard a lot tonight about the importance of music and the arts in our schools. The solution to this problem was the 3-school model. It is the solution to providing equity and stability for our district. It was and still is the solution for our schools in my mind. Unfortunately and devastatingly, our 2 smallest communities voted to keep 2 small buildings open over the quality and education of all of our children. But also, no one is happy with this outcome. Not you, not our families. Families who voted no, as you heard tonight, are upset over the loss of programming. Families who voted yes are feeling robbed of the right of a better opportunity and the promise of a future of a new community school. Where do we go from here? I can tell you it's beyond frustrating to not have had a vote in this. I recommend finding a way to have a future vote where every district voter is able to determine the future direction of this district. Because ultimately, kids are going to leave this district, and that is going to hurt our bottom line and enrollment even further. Thank you for the work you're all doing as volunteers on this school board. You are not appreciated enough.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Wow. I'm voting for the budget on March 3rd. I just want to say that again. I'm voting for the budget. And I hope others will too, because we really need the resources that you have offered. But it's very difficult when the preschool, the pre-K decision came right after the vote. It's very difficult to trust this board and the superintendent. The board members all agreed to abide by that vote. And at a board meeting, the superintendent said if a class has maybe 2 students, we might move them. And at a coffee and conversation at Callis Elementary, again, the superintendent assured us that he would honor the town's vote. So there's a trust issue. And once you lose trust, it's really hard to get it back. I also want to say music and math go together. Music and math go together. They feed each other, and there's so many other benefits to music. But if we want to improve our math scores, music is a way to do that too. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for sticking it out with us tonight. I just want to say, first of all, I really resent the idea that anyone upset about the pre-K decision is misinformed, as the principal of East Montpelier suggested, and I saw several nods up here. I also want to say that I take issue with the assertion that those who voted no voted for pre-K being transferred. We were given a binary choice between keeping the school open or closed. We took the choice to keep it open. We weren't choosing to send our kids to East Montpelier. Stephen, you mentioned that the most important decision about that was staffing. I would argue that children are the most important part. And finally, I just want to talk about the overall consensus that we are here to provide equity for our children in our communities. What I've been hearing tonight is East Montpelier is upset over music. Calais is upset over losing an entire school. East Montpelier is upset over full day and aftercare. East Montpelier, or Calais, is upset over pre-K at all. There's a board posture that I've heard just from you, Michaelan, that we are all one big community. I think we all have to be honest that that's not true. We are here because Act 486 forced us into a unified district against the wishes of the town. Even Becca Ballant, who was a champion of the bill, said that she did not know that communities were going to be forced into consolidation if they didn't want to. I think the only way we can move forward cooperatively is understanding that we are 5 separate towns and not one community.
Wow. More bold. I think it puts a little more pressure. I come as a frustrated citizen. Justin Fortier.
It's not on. Oh, there.
Sorry.
There.
Justin Fortier from Calais. Coming to you guys as a frustrated citizen. We are going to be looking at a 3rd straight year of potentially closing Calais Elementary. I voted for the closure. I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with, I don't feel like we've been proactive in getting ahead of the information that needs to be shared. I think it's on you guys and it's on us as a community to get out there and say, these are the positives, you know, these are the pros, these are the cons. Share all that information, right? Be transparent. You had a great point. Like, keep it simple. A one line, like a one sheet, this is what you're gonna get. This is what you're not gonna get with these budgets. If it passes, here's your information. If it doesn't, here's your information. Get that out to people. People don't know. Whether you like to hear it or not, people are not aware of what those votes meant. The other thing is, Daniel, I think you hit it on the head. The district looks like we're gonna be merging with Montpelier. I don't know if the other districts are gonna be doing the same. Talk to Montpelier, right? Get ahead of it, like talk to Montpelier. Don't do that in a year or two, okay? Do it now.
Hello? Am I back on?
No.
Please, please, please?
Yes. There. There you go.
Jordan Keys from Calais. I want to commend everybody for the amount of work and preparation that goes into talking about all of these figures. And then the quality of the questions, both from the community, the administration, and the board members. These are really important conversations to have. But if you take a step back and look at it from a distance, we're using a razor blade to cut hairs. And that seems like a crazy thing to have to argue about, but as a parent, I have to make the decision for my kid now. I can't afford to do 5-year plans. I have a 6-year-old who won't see those plans come to fruition. So I guess before I get cut off here, It's my understanding that the board has received some petitions for consideration, and that the nature of those petitions may have some overlapping general premises or rationale that falls outside of the scope of the existing policy to take those things up under consideration. Is there any intention of the board or board members to acknowledge the volume of those requests or speak more generally about them in public session before going into executive session?
No, these are issues that have to be addressed in executive session prior to any public discussion.
So we're going to address them on our executive session, and we're going to come back out, and you would get to hear our reflection of whatever decision is made. So
okay, great. That
encourage you to
is
stay.
clarifying. Thank you.
Yeah.
Zach, I just wish you would have spent last Saturday before the vote at the Callis dump with me. And maybe you wouldn't think that just one side is talking, because there were Vermonters there. And I spent 4 hours freezing and listened to them about why they voted no, why they wanted to keep the school open. And it's because people have different visions. You keep saying, if you voted no, you're not interested in the best outcome, student outcome. It's a fallacy. People have different perspectives. And if you think you can just sit up here, you wanted to have the vote on the 19th of January. People still didn't feel they were prepared to get all the information. And when principal says misinformation, it's because there's so much information coming out, and it's not always consistent from you. So I know you're all working hard, and I respect that, but you're overwhelmed by the vote. It was so overwhelming that I think all of us were surprised, but you guys didn't hear, and you were so solid into your 3 schools that you missed what was going on in the community. I went away for a few weeks out of the country, and I came back, and I heard more at the dump in 4 hours than you guys sometimes heard in months. And I know I've known Flora for a long time, and I like her, but you guys are going to have a hard time passing this budget. And Stephen, you need to have more explanation and tell some numbers. You can play that all you want. You guys really need to hear something different than you're hearing. So that's it. I hope you have.
Thank you. You have somebody behind you. I know.
Hi, my name is Kevin Martineau. I moved to Callis in August. I voted no on the school vote, and I registered my son, my 3-year-old, the day after we got the results. So I kind of have this bad taste in my mouth. I don't know where to go from here. I'm really just getting my feet wet in my son's education. I plan on being very involved in it. I look forward to getting to know most of you. And I'm concerned for his education. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few people online. Sonia.
Thank you, Floor. So on Tuesday, February 10th, Callis and Worcester residents voted overwhelmingly to keep their schools open. I want to say that again. The residents voted overwhelmingly to keep their schools open. This was not a mistake. We were not misled. We were not misinformed. We made decisions about the values that we residents have. And our values are that we are more interested in keeping our youngest and smallest residents close to their homes. We are not, as someone else said, one big community. We're not. And the people who keep insisting that are overlooking the different perspectives and the different values that a lot of people here have. And the way to resolve those differences is not through denial. That's what's been going on for 10 years. And from my perspective, it would seem that the voters are much, much less interested in strategic plans and standardizing curriculum. And they are much, much more interested in keeping their smallest residents close to home. You've been doing this for over 10 years now. And it's been said that the definition of insanity is.
Thank you, Sonia. Lisa?
Hi, Lisa Hannah, Worcester. I guess I just have two requests for the board. One is that you sell this budget. I think Zach said earlier that I emailed some resources. I really think it's important that there's more than just small blurbs in Front Porch Forum and reminders of the vote. We need to be convinced that we need to pass this budget. I think, as you've heard tonight, I think there's organization to not pass the budget, and I am very concerned of what that could look like. So you heard from us that many of us felt you didn't sell configuration. I voted for it, but here we are. So sell the budget is my request. My other request is you pay close attention to the math instruction. The conversation today made me feel very uncertain when Chris was asking questions about what that was going to look like. The answers I heard did not make me feel like the kids at Doty or maybe across the district are going to receive adequate math instruction. And I understand we're in a really tricky place with this budget. I wish there was, I don't know, I wish you all had a better options, but think about what you heard tonight. It did not sound like confidence that we know what we're doing going forward. So I would just ask you to keep an eye on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Kathleen?
Yes, hi, Kathleen Wester. I'm going to talk about math, music, and consolidation. As far as math, I also heard at Doty, we're going from 4 classrooms to 3 classrooms. I heard that our 1-2 is quite small. I also heard that the way that we're going to do math instruction is quite complicated. And I heard the word complicated at least 3 times. I don't understand how 48 children in that small building can be complicated. So I echo Lisa's concerns. I think we need to, I don't know how much a math interventionist could cost, but I think we should get one back. Secondly, I don't know how much our music would cost to reinsert in all of our 5 schools, but we did hear today an interesting comment that math is music and music is math, and that sounded interesting to me. I would like to see us getting not only our band back, but our music instruction back. And as far as consolidation, I think, again, people have raised this. We're going to be here again and again, and we talk about declining enrollment.
Oh, where did she go?
Our time is up. Kathleen, I think you muted yourself in the middle of your statement.
Oh, I apologize. There's just too many windows going on here.
You had 35 seconds. So
Yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
just talking about consolidation, I believe, and I don't understand why we're not sharing this declining enrollment and keeping all of our schools open and having a robust middle school and having one of our schools be a middle school and then having our pre-Ks be pre-K through 4 and then having our high school be merged with other high school districts. That happens across the state, and I don't understand why it's not happening at Washington Central UU. Thank you. I'll put that in writing in case some of it got cut out with my mute button.
Thank you, Kathleen. Julie, I'm going to jump you. I know that you have a comment from somebody else, and I'm going to let you go last. Jennifer? Jen, is it you or is it Cole?
It's me. It's me.
Okay. Hey.
So Jen Bliss, Callis resident. I have an upcoming pre-K student, and I'm just worried about this bus. I'm glad to hear that there's bus transportation from Callis to East Montpelier, but I want to know how that keeps these youngest students who are just barely potty trained, if they are, off the bus within the 1 hour window. Does switching buses restart their time? Is that how it's gonna work? Or are they truly gonna be on the bus for under an hour? And I also just want to request that when, I think a lot of parents from Calais are not gonna send their children to pre-K at East Montpelier, from what I hear. And I want to request that when the following year comes along, that the decision to move the class back to Calais is postponed until registration is finished. Because you're going to see a lot of pre-K students not enrolled in East Montpelier, and I don't want that decision to be made before those families that have pulled their children from the pre-K program to be able to enroll for the kindergarten year.
Thanks, Jen. Cindy?
Oh.
Do you want to unmute yourself? There.
Yes. The words I was going to say just disappeared, so I guess I'll wing it. I'm just hearing that people don't have a lot of confidence in what the administration has done to take the preschool out of Calais when it's a big preschool number right after the vote. It doesn't taste good. And I don't blame parents who are mad. If I had a little kid I was planning to enroll, I heard the school voted to stay open, and then you send me to another school and offer me a couple of bus rides, I would be really unhappy. And I think it would be important to explore a lot of the ideas that community members have suggested for how to be creative about keeping our schools open. I'm hearing that you might try to have more volunteers. I think that's great. I think a lot of good ideas have been suggested. I'm also hearing that quite a few people are voting the budget down. And I think there needs to be a more equitable look to how the money is being distributed if you expect to pass that budget. I'm disappointed in how this is being handled. And I know you're all working hard and doing the best you can, but it's just not listening to democracy, not quite good enough. So thank you for this opportunity to speak. Have a good night.
Okay, Laura Lee?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Two things come to mind through the evening. And being a teacher and a parent and a community member, there's a lot of places information come to me through. So I have a lot of lenses. And echoing what a lot of people have recently just said about like true transparency, not a narrative driven transparency that then doesn't come to fruition, which is what feels like the three school model was, in terms of all the possible threats and how bad it would look when there were just if there were 5 schools that came through the budget, through the process of not closing any schools. Because now we're looking at it really differently. We're like, oh, bam, we did get music back. And oh, bam, some of those teachers at U32 don't need to be let go. And oh, bam, actually, all the things we said, most of it actually isn't accurate anymore. That's where all the honesty is a problem. And putting this budget forward needs to look as absolutely unbiased with the very most clear information as possible if you're going to get folks on board with it. And then the other thoughts I have are, we aren't necessarily one big community, but there's a lot of ways we can start looking at us really differently, like artists in residence. Why are we doing one school with it? And why are we doing another school with it? Why aren't we asking all the schools to be part of these larger programs that could unite us more?
Thank you, Laura Lee. Julia?
So a community member sent this to me and asked me to read it anonymously. Was Calais formally evaluated as the site to house all district pre-K next year, particularly given that kindergarten was removed and there is now available capacity? If so, could you please provide that analysis? If not, why was that option not explored as a practical way to balance building utilization? If the goal is equitable resource alignment, it seems reasonable that Calais absorbing pre-K would have been part of that discussion. Additionally, how many Callis families have already enrolled in pre-K but have now stated they will withdraw their children if they're assigned to East Montpelier Elementary School? Families are expressing that busing 3- and 4-year-olds to one school and then transferring them to another is not what they signed up for, and they're prepared to pull enrollment over it. What is the district's written maximum ride time and transfer standard for pre-K through pre-K students? If we're trying to stabilize and increase enrollment, how does implementing a plan that may cause currently enrolled families to withdraw serve the best interest of the district? Please provide clear numbers and confirmation.
Okay, I think we are at the end of public comment, and now I'm looking for a motion to move into our executive session for residency requests.
So moved.
Oh, okay, so Patrick moves, Diane seconds, is that good? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, I believe the ayes have it. Julia, I'll call you, leave the meeting, and we're bringing, and to include our superintendent. Did we-
Yes,
we- Yeah, we didn't say that, but to include our superintendent, please, Lisa, sorry. And then we are going to be coming back out. I'm so sorry. It was going to take too long, and there will be.
Based on our existing criteria, we move to accept the superintendent's recommendation around student residency request.
Okay, so moved by Diane, second by Daniel. Requests, yeah. So, yeah, so we had multiple requests. This is not something that we do all the time. I just want to give you, the parents will be getting our criteria. I'm just going to paraphrase the criteria a little bit so that it's on the record why we're doing it. So the criteria is really based on the exceptions are made by parents and guardians that are submitted to the board. The board will consider request in executive session, which is what we just did. Again, the board does not have the legal obligation to grant residency or exceptions. The following are the factors that we use. If there's room in the grade on the school where the enrollment is being requested, yes. Does the enrollment of the non-resident student causes the receiving school to be, what?
Don't answer.
Oh, okay. The Washington Central Unified Class Sizes Guidelines or Education Quality Ratios, that's the other guidelines. The second one is for inter-district elementary requests, will granting the exception cause the school of the residency to dip under the Washington Central Class Size Guidelines or Education Quality Ratios? Is the third one is enrollment in the specific or a specialized program that cannot be replicated at the school where they reside? The fourth one is the student enrollment in a specific or a specialized program that does not exist in the school where they are requesting enrollment. The board decision should not require the district to create programming that does not exist for the non-resident students. And the last one is the student approaching a transition end to elementary school, end of middle school, where it would be beneficial to remain in our district until the grade transition point. Okay, just so that to be fair to everybody. With that, all in favor, please signify. Oh, when I say comment.
I just want to say, I mean, we have to be, because this involves individual student information, we have to be careful about things like numbers we cite, those sorts of things. But I think it is because this was a subject that came up in a number of my conversations when we were talking about the consolidation question, that we received enough residency requests that it could have destabilized it. Not it could have, that it would have destabilized the school.
Okay, so with.
So I will speak with parents individually about the decision that I've recommended that they're voting on. We don't make that public in this situation, just so parents are aware of that. I have to speak to you individually about this.
These are residency requests. That's what we're voting on. We are accepting the recommendation from the administration to not accept the residency requests. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. The motion carries, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ursula. Second by Zach. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Orca. Thank you, Spencer. And thank you,